Hello, everybody. It is your Uncle Fish back again for School of Fish Art Stream. J-Man wants a Gatling gun on the end of his tail. Oh my goodness. J-Man says the tail's where you put all the heavy artillery. Said he used to have a howitzer on the end of his tail. Hello. Welcome to the School of Fish Art Stream. I am your host, your ever-loving Uncle Fish, fastest man in indie comics. We're doing a different format this way, trying to get on some more streaming platforms and stuff. Hopefully everything is going through. Anyway, today we've got a special episode because we've got Joe Soliz in from Child's Play, or what is it, Kid Play or Child's Play Comics? I don't want to get...
No, you got it right. Child's Play.
Child's Play Comics. Sorry, my brain, my OCD is always like, nah, you did that wrong. I apologize. Did a sketch cover for him last time on his last campaign, and he brought his buddy with him this time, who's on his way, hopefully. Running a little bit late, but you know, the internet gods need us to start on time, so we're here. And hopefully he'll show up any new minute, and we're going to start working on a new variant cover for the Kickstarter that is coming up soon. So, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about this comic book that we're working on today?
Yes, sir. So,
what's up, Dream Man?
Yes, you did do a cover. You did do a cover for us back in the fall for our very first Kickstarter. So we survived that, and we're glutton for punishment. So we decided to do it again. But yes, you know, as you know, you're going to do one for me in the future, and Jesse really liked the cover you did for us. So what we're working on is actually a project that is through his company, which is Dinosaur Entertainment, which is primarily video games. That's the industry that he's in.
That is a great name.
But yeah. So this is the first release from a branch of that, which is now Dinosaur Comics. It was funny. The name, he went back and forth with it for so long, and he was just like, dinosaurs are fun, so let's just go with that. and yeah, it's been a little over 10 years. I remember he started it right before, because Child's Play as a business just hit 10 years. We've only been doing comics for the last 3, but we used to own a retail store before that, and we did a legit YouTube show there right before we started the comics thing. And so yeah, this one is oh, look, there's my cousin Joel Corrales, another indie creator in the family.
What's up?
So but this is one of those that I met Jesse and our other mutual friend Roy, who you got to draw some of Roy's characters when you did How to Hunt a Hero. Awesome. On that cover. He's still working on that book. So they both knew each other in high school, and I met them both in college. And this is one of those that Jesse started actually when he was in high school. There's a little forward in here that talks about how, you know, when they first started coming up with this, it's that thing where you're like, you know, you're in high school, you're like, ooh, what if me and my friends were a group of superheroes? And so you start putting it together, mm-hmm. Right? And so when you do that in high school, it's usually a little bit more lighthearted and fun, and this book is definitely that. But after 20 years later, and you know, you go through life, you can't help but add some of the drama that you've experienced along the way, kind of retroactively in the book. Absolutely. Because you know it does take place in high school in the late 90s. It follows a group of kids in South Texas, which is where we all grew up. We didn't go together. We pretty much identical experiences. We both grew up in these small towns. I mean, for my small town, I always tell people that I grew up on Tatooine. I was essentially Luke Skywalker. Like there's nothing down there in South Texas. Like if you're traveling south in Texas, and once you pass San Antonio, you know, it's pretty much all open land and small towns until you get to a couple of the cities, further south before you go into Mexico. So um, the idea with
Let's-
this was, what if you have? Oh, I think Jesse's finally coming in.
Yep. Let's see, but his camera is off, or
Yeah, I'm trying to get that working.
Yeah,
Joe knows it's been
might have
giving
to
me
turn
some
on the
issues.
virtual
having an issue with the camera lately.
webcam.
I'll keep
on
talking
OBS.
about the story a little bit as he's fixing that.
Alrighty.
Yeah, we do meetings during the week, talk about all this stuff, and this is an issue lately, unfortunately. So, but yeah, so that in a small town, and you have this group of superheroes, what does that look like? Because most of the superhero stories you see always take place in big cities, right? And so that way we were able to pour our own experiences into it. Especially being from the Hispanic culture, we were able to kind of put that in there as well. So it just kind of created this, and we were both very fortunate to in our own experiences to have a really good group of friends that we grew up with, and a lot of them we are still friends with here in adulthood. And
that's a big deal. That really is. That doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, no, it really is, and we always talk about how fortunate we are that has happened. Especially for me, I consider that it's happened twice, because I have the group of friends that I met in high school that I'm still friends with, and now these guys. And oh yeah, my cousin here says, I find that comics we make as kids are pretty sweet and age like wine. As we mature, it would be cool to show how these childhood scribbles become more mature effort. Yeah, well, I've seen a lot of childhood scribbles be turned mature in the indie scene, and that can take on a lot of forms.
Yeah, so, that could go in a lot of different directions.
That not to go off on too much of a tangent, but that would be an interesting podcast in itself. That, because I've noticed that being in the indie scene, I feel like there's a lot more darker stories, and I find when you start talking to the creators that it comes from a personal place, and so like this is almost their way to cope with that. So,
but don't they all though?
Anyway,
I mean, because like I know for me, all of my characters are some part of me taken to the extreme. Just like it's really clear reading through the book, like so much of like who your friends were at the time got brought into who these characters turned out to be. But like Virgil is absolutely what it feels like to be bigger than everybody else, and for people to think you're scary when you're not. Like little Bellamy covered in spikes and green zone is what it feels like. Nervous system to hurt all the time, to be afraid of hurting people because I'm so big. Like, it's absolutely parts of me taken to the extreme. I mean, so like, I kind of feel like they're all us in a way. They're all kind of a cathartic expression of who we are,
Oh, there's Michael Balonis. I just made a good connection with him leading into his Kickstarter. It says that's how my Kickstarter went. High school doodles that I had an actual artist adapt. So yeah, and his Kickstarter was just successful. So congrats on that, Michael.
Congrats.
Yeah, and it looked like a fun book. I can't wait to get it.
So Jesse, welcome
anyway,
to the
here's
show,
Jesse.
man.
Howdy doody.
So I've just basically been filling him in on a little bit of history of the book and us, and I haven't told the infamous story of how I met you yet, though. I was gonna wait until you were actually on camera for that.
I'm doing a unboxing video right now. I just got my shipment from Big Bad.
Oh boy.
I've been very excited for this one. Let's see. Chances are non-zero of this being a big booby anime girl. But now it's I don't know how many Transformer fans are on your stream, but this is Missing Link Optimus Prime. Oh man, I've been dying for something like this for a long time, where basically they took the original G1 mold of Optimus Prime and they gave it complete articulation. So like, so yeah,
and has the original box art.
Oh, awesome.
they gave it. It has just arrived, but he's like fully posable. He's got all of the modern articulation. And
I love
everything.
that axe.
It's the exact same mold. It's just awesome. You can finally put him like in all these like classic poses and whatnot, and he can do the Iron Man pose and everything. So comes with styrofoam. Like that's a big deal. Like a lot of people were like, "Wow, it's coming." I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna rip this out and put it on my shelf, but still, it's this is really cool. I'm so excited about that. As you can tell,
Absolutely.
from my voice.
And I love the retro aspect. I mean, like the fact that it does look like the original one, and the big axe from the cartoon and stuff, which always seemed kind of silly to me at the time, but also like became iconic in my head that these robots had these like, you know, fantasy style weapons was just crazy cool to me, and I love it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. Yeah, so what are we doing here today? What's going on, you guys?
We are working on a variant cover and talking about your new comic that's coming out.
Badass.
Yeah,
cool.
there's this guy that I'm working on this book with. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, yeah?
I've known him for a little while.
How'd you guys meet?
Yes, thank you. Good segue. Thank you. Yeah, so like I said, I met my friend, or I met our friend Roy first. They, like I said, them two knew each other in high school, and I met Roy in college. We had the same class together, and I had talked to Jesse over the phone a couple of times. Now this sounds like a relationship. Talked to him over the phone a couple of times, but the first time I met him in person was in my bed. I was gonna let that one sink in for a while, Fish. So I lived 30 minutes away from my hometown. That's how close I was to my college. So we had an apartment, and I went home for the weekend because there was a and so my bed was vacant for the weekend. So he came down to visit Roy, and when I came back Sunday night to get ready for Monday morning, he was in my bed. So therefore, first time I met him, he was in my bed. So,
that is interesting. You can tell he's a storyteller right there, because he knew how to put that to make it really interesting and funny.
Yeah, we've had many more encounters in bed since then.
Especially going to conventions.
Yeah.
Oh man, I miss those days of everybody just packing in a room trying to save money.
Oh man, I am going to be doing that with a bunch of strangers at the end of the month, and I'm kind of looking forward to it because I know it's going to be weird. And
No, see,
but
I did pretty good. I've never done that.
You never done the stranger ones?
No, I've never done that. Have you?
Oh yeah, no, all the time.
No, it always.
Long and I would
out
always like scram a lot of people.
let's see what you're working on there. That's cool.
Yeah, just coloring a page. I have my color palettes assigned to a hotkey.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I just push the hotkey, it drops this image in, and then I just sample and fill with my paint bucket.
That is awesome. That's cool. That's a smart way of doing it. I have made a habit over time to add custom colors to my custom palette for the characters that I do all the time, but I've had to start doing them in orders, and I have to hunt for them sometimes, because when I add new colors in the middle of the palette, sometimes everything gets shuffled and now it's not where it used to be anymore. So I made a point of going from top to bottom when I do their colors. So like I have to go around looking for a hair color that I recognize and like, oh, okay, that white is Ultraman's hair, so that's his skin, that's the blue for his costume, so that means this must be Ultima, which means that's Crimson Streak, that's the red eyed.
Yeah, it can get like that pretty easily. You just I'm real big on process. That's one of the big things that I do with my job is just coming up with these processes and efficiencies, and I try and automate as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
Utilize as many hotkeys as I can, as all that stuff. Get it all. Oh,
Time
wrong
is
one.
money. Make it as quick as it can be. And
Oh, absolutely. I always joke about that with Joe, where I'm just kind of like, I don't know, Joe. That's a lot of time, and I'm expensive, so I just rather do it this way.
Uh-huh.
so while I got you here, and we're working on a cover for your book anyway,
Oh yeah,
let's
awesome.
see if we can zoom up on that a little bit. What do you think of this layout so far? I was thinking of like the starburst of all the heroes coming out, unless you want to do something like totally different, which
Well,
we can
the
absolutely.
theme with this book, at least all the covers, is it's an introduction to the characters, right?
Mhm.
So as long as the cover is like, hey, here we are, boom, here's everyone, then that's cool. Like, it's whatever you want to do is fine by me.
Good deal. Cool. All right. I was hoping, but I definitely wanted to run it by you now that you're actually here and can
Yeah,
look at it and stuff. Because
yeah,
I
it's
hate.
not a
There's
problem.
nothing I
Yeah,
hate more than when a client has to send me like reference pictures of their characters that other artists have drawn. And they're like, okay, yeah, he doesn't have that part on his costume in this image, and he can't fly like in this image, and he can't do this, but those artists just basically, they do what they want. So like take out all these little pieces that they did, and I'm like, seriously,
Yeah.
if you're getting paid for this, you might take a second and give the client what they actually wanted. But
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
become kind of a pet peeve of mine. So I try and make sure that I'm giving you what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of being an artist and all that stuff too for me is creative freedom. Like whenever I do my art direction and stuff on any of the games that I work on, I let my artists kind of like express themselves and do things. And if something comes up and it's a little too far, I'll nudge them back in the direction that we need to go and stuff like that. But for the most part, one of the models I always use is I never want people to work like for me. I want people to work with me, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
And it's just I find most success with that, bringing out the people's natural talents versus just using them to see my vision through.
Oh yeah. I mean, like if you keep a stranglehold on stuff, you might get the best image, that you thought of, but you're not going to get the best possible thing you could have got that, passionate people that were excited about the project could have brought into it if you,
Yeah,
kill that with an iron fist grip on things.
yeah. Plus, since I'm an artist, if you do something I don't like, I just go change it myself later.
Yeah. Oh my god, I feel that so much. I I've had to be careful sometimes. I try, like, there's sometimes when I get variant covers from folks for some of my books, and I'm like, oh, that little part of her costume's wrong. And I'm like, I could just fix that myself. And then
Yeah,
most of the time I leave it. Most of the time I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I'm not going to be that hung up about it. It's a variant cover. People know that. But, you
yeah.
know,
Sometimes it really just depends on what it is. Like I just sent my next my the first official batch the first official batch of books off the Kickstarter. We did kind of a test run that I used to kind of like look through, engage, and we sold it this past weekend and stuff. But while I was reading it, there was a couple little things that at the time I was like, this doesn't bother me. And then the more I looked at them and stuff, I was like, you know what, this does bother me. So right before I sent out this last batch, I just went in there and fixed up a couple little things. Just went and redrew a couple background elements and stuff to make it more authentic. Yeah, my artist is great. I love him to death. But sometimes like I'll see something and I'll be like, instead of me like trying to like just explain all these things to him about like culturally, like, oh, this is what we were doing at the time or whatever, I'll just like go in there and edit it afterwards. It's not a big deal to me. I don't think any less of him or anything like that. It's just the nature of the game, I guess. We move real fast with him and I. You can ask Joe about that. We're like a machine right now of just pumping out these pages. Sometimes I don't want to interrupt his flow either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like right here I realized he left out a line, so I'm gonna have to go in there and finish up that outfit here.
Oh, Joelle brought up an interesting point, and I've heard people talk about this over the years collecting comics, but he says that his brother can't stand when the cover doesn't match the interior art, so therefore he doesn't like most variant covers.
Oh, I hated them
I don't know.
so long. Oh my god. Because like in the 90s, they'd be really bad about like putting Jim Lee on the cover and then having Jim Lee do the front splash page and then pencil the next 2 pages. And then, Jeffrey Nobody Jr. would come in and do everything else and it would look like crap. And so I would buy it thinking I was getting a Jim Lee book. And then I'm getting, some intern doing the rest of the book. And I would be really mad about that. And it left a real bad taste in my mouth. I hated variant covers for that reason. It took a long time for me to come around and realize that it's just such a part of especially the indie comic, community, like they expect it. I had to start, I had to break my own rule and start doing it. But still, I'm kind of careful about how much I'm willing to put into it in getting the covers done, because they usually bring in the best money, but often don't necessarily cover the money I put into them. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a fine line. I absolutely hate the bait and switches, but when it's used as a bait and switch, that's when it's real bad. But sometimes it's not, and it's fine. It's one of those where it just really depends on how you handle the situation. And in
this day, we know that this is variant cover C. We know that's not what the art on the inside looks like.
Yeah,
but
for me,
back then,
it's a big deal to make sure that the original artist is going to do at least cover A. And right now we're doing both cover A, cover B, and even a cover C or D, or however you want to label them. And then we're having one guest cover at a time. So that way it's cool for people that want it, but also it doesn't seem like it's your only choice. What are we talking about here in the chat? Let's see.
Michael was saying that he wants at least the main cover to be the interior. And I think for the most part, it is. I also wonder too, especially since variant covers exploded in the 90s, if as it's gone through, as newer people have come in, they're kind of educated on it. Like, hey, this is what to expect with a variant cover. Because it just feels like more people understand that nowadays. I haven't seen too many people actually get upset because they didn't know ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. We've gotten so used to it now that I don't think very many people are going to be surprised unless they're just like brand new to comics.
Yeah. I saw a process comment in there, something about the way they color. What was that, Joe?
Oh, that was my cousin. He was talking about. Here, I'll go back and get it. He says when he. Oh no, that's the variant covers. He says he colors behind the lines, clear out all the white, and put the color on another layer.
Yeah,
so
that's
he's speaking your language, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's similar how I do it. Like we have a setup with all the inks. I have him separate the background from the characters, and all the panel lines are all separated. And then using Clip Studio, they have some really great options. So as long as I have a layer selected underneath, which is my color layer, I could just select the paint tool or the paint bucket, and I just click where I want things to fill, and it automatically fills on the
That is
color.
so great.
Yeah, it fills on the color layer, taking into consideration the ink layers on top, and then it expands everything by like 2 pixels or more. So that way you get the bleed behind the inks. Clip
That
Studio.
sold me on
Clip Studio,
right there.
yeah, Clip Studio is pretty amazing if you guys haven't used it.
Yeah, it is so great.
Which
Like it is just so well designed
Katie,
for drawing and coloring. It's just it's awesome for this.
which book is Katie's? I see her mentioning her book here. What's her book called?
She works on a lot of stuff with Laguna Studios, and like she's coloring D Fish's Finding D book. She colored the first one and is coloring the new one, but she's mostly known for being like a super hyper realistic, like photorealistic wildlife painter. Like her horses and birds coming out of the snow, like you can see all the. Oh my God, the snow drives me nuts. I could not do what she does. And then she says the same thing looking at my stuff. She doesn't know how we do it so quickly and all of that stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't have the patience to do what she does. I wish I did, but I cannot.
Dude, I watched you.
Realistic.
I watched you draw scales on a dragon, dude. So
But her dragon like looks like a dragon with scales made of real metal. Like, oh my God, her metal is so cool. I wish I was that good at it, but again, I'm faking it. I'm faking it to kind of look like metal. She like actually does it. She's really talented.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we do is all smoke and mirrors, man. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just as long as it looks good enough. Like for a lot of things, it's like, that looks cool. You know, being you know, I'm a professional art director, and I do a lot of these other things on the side. But a lot of times, like one of mine and Joe's friends, Roy, he's one of my friends from childhood. He'll just ask me, he's like, "Oh, how did you do that?" And I was like, I don't know. I just kind of moved some sliders around until it looked cool, and that was it. You know, like it's just at the end of the day, it's just overall like just the taste, right? It's just, oh crap, that's on the wrong layer. It's just a large part of it is understanding your color theory and stuff like that. You know, making sure everything looks good and everything. But as far as the journey I took to get to that final destination, sometimes it's just a big old mess.
Oh yeah, there's so much more guesswork involved in it sometimes than people would like to know. You know, like they want to think like, oh, we're just magically that good at it. Like, sometimes I just play around for a while and you know, see because what looked really cool in my brain sometimes comes out a hot mess when you put all those different colors together that look so good in the noggin, and now they're just a mess.
Oh yeah. One of my best friends, specifically on this book, is gradient maps layers.
Oh yes, sir. Love
it just brings and ties into the colors all together. And you know, if I want something to feel like it's nighttime or whatever, I just go in there and I just use my nighttime colors and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, lots of awesome tricks that make it go really quick. I love it.
Yeah,
I have a question based on Joelly's comment here. What version is Photoshop currently on? Because he's claiming he's using 3.0, which he calls 3.0.
Yeah, 3.0 is from like the early 2000s. I stopped at Photoshop 6, and actually 3.0 might be around 1999 or so, because Photoshop 6 was around 2002-ish, somewhere in there, right around when I was working on Blood Rain is when I started using Photoshop 6. But now Photoshop is yearly, so it's it's 2024 right now, CS 2024. Unless he's talking about CS6, which is different than Photoshop, or CS3, which is different than Photoshop 6.
That subscription thing, that burned me. That was
Yep.
when I was done even dreaming about getting Photoshop anymore. Cause
Yeah, I still use Photoshop, but yeah, I absolutely that was not nice of them to do.
I've lost a couple of jobs because I didn't use Photoshop, and I was like,
Really?
I mean, I know how to use the tools. I know, like, the software I use was practically identical, other than maybe a couple of tools were in a different menu. And, like, going back to using Photoshop wouldn't have been hard. Just figure out where a couple of those tools are in a couple different menus. No. And it's an HR guy. So the HR guy is looking at it saying, oh, well, no, if you don't use it, then you don't match the criteria. Like hiring a carpenter and saying, like, well, we only use DeWalt tools on our job. And like, well, I got Ryobi tools, but I mean, it's the same thing. You pull the trigger, the drill works. I don't know. Those are green and our tools are yellow. I don't think you're going to be able to use those. It's totally different. Like the sheet says you got to be able to use a DeWalt drill and you've only got a Ryobi. I don't think this is going to work. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know how drills work, do you?
Yeah,
But-
absolutely. Like in the game industry, all we really care about is the final file format. For the most part, I mean, there's definitely some exemptions to that rule. But for the most part, as long as you export out an FBX for us and the normals and the tangents are aligned a certain way, then cool. That's all we really care about. But you go ahead and use whatever tools you're comfortable with and whatever makes you faster.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I've had a couple of issues a couple of times where, like, a client I was working with uses Photoshop and would send me a file, and when I open it up in Clip Studio, and they're wanting me to do, like, change all the stuff from their cover 2 to cover 3, none of that text is text anymore. It's all been rasterized in the process, and that's an issue. Like, I have to get you to tell me which fonts are which so I can replace them. But still, that little bit of extra hassle is worth it to me to not give into the subscription because it's just it drives me up the wall.
Yeah, the cool thing about the more recent Photoshops is that when you open up a Photoshop file or whatever, and it's got text in there, even a layered TIFF, it will tell you the file that's the font that's missing exactly. It on the layer itself says missing this font, and you're like, oh, cool, and you just go and you replace it, and there you go. Gone are the days of just having to guess or trying to track it down by asking the original artist, or you're lucky sometimes that they're even still there. But I discovered that myself with my letterer. She sent me all the layered TIFFs so I can review everything, and then I saw that I was missing like some of the fonts, but then I just looked to the layer name and I was like, oh, they're there. I'll just go download them myself and make the changes I need and do all that.
Let's see here. So in the chat, Joelly's asking us to welcome Ryan Howitt. I know he does the Indie Comic Badger. I don't know, he hasn't said anything yet. Hope this is connecting here. And let's see here. So Katie has moved over to Clip Studio and hasn't looked back. Joelly's not willing to pay yearly either. Michael says the same weird restrictive rules apply to the video editing field too, and it's always driven me insane. And Joelly says that he ain't made of money, boyo. It's gonna be done on the cheap.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about Clip Studio and how well the pricing is. Of course, unless you want to get like Pro or something like that, which I haven't found necessarily a use for, so I haven't upgraded to that yet.
That's what I keep telling people. Like, you can get the base version, and you can get it on sale a lot of times. Like, they do like 60% off sales often. I got my base version for like $35 in the beginning when it was on sale. And
Yeah.
I made money off of that software for like 3 years before I upgraded. And, and the upgrade's nice, but the base version, I like to say, comes with all the bells and most of the whistles. And the few things that you're not getting are pretty small relatively. They're cool for what they are. Like I went ahead and paid for the new upgraded version 2 release just so I could get Align and Distribute, because I freaking love Align and Distribute and being able to get everything centered on the page with one click. I love that. And
I need to look at that.
That was worth it to me. Being able to put all of my pages into one big file and work through it, and they're all right there in order. I can move the pages around nice and easy. I can output one PDF right from that file. That was worth it to get the EX version for me. But this is my living, so this is what I use all day. I mean, it was worth it for me. It may not be worth that extra price for somebody else, but that's fine. You can absolutely get started making money with it with the base version all day long.
Yeah, and then as far as like other packages go, I use the Affinity package instead of like paying for Illustrator and all that stuff, and it's really good stuff and really cheap too. The Affinity Designer is like $60, and Affinity Publisher is also like $60. So that's what I use to put together all my PDFs and all that. Designer alone, just for the logo stuff that I've been doing for our comics, and just in general, like for other designs and things like that has been amazing, because I've always hated Illustrator. I just never really took to it. I learned it back in the day, but it just wasn't for me. So not having to deal with Illustrator, because Illustrator is like overkill a lot of times, because a lot of those packages, they feel like after some time they suffer from bloat, because they have to continuously grow. And when corporate people are behind your back asking about your growth, you got to continue to add features, but you
Add
can't
stuff
really
necessarily
focus.
nobody asked for.
Yeah, and then you kind of don't pay attention to the features that are already there, that are hurting and stuff like that, and it just sucks. And so you get these packages that are like, they're what is it called, master of none or whatever is. You could do all these kind of things, but you can't really do everything well. Not saying Illustrator is a very good program, but it just, when I open it up, like I'm looking to do just like one really simple thing, and I don't need it to do everything else in the world.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I realized in my career as an artist is, like, a lot of the higher end places, like advertising agencies and stuff on up, are absolutely 100% Photoshop. But when you go into like production level stuff on down, and you go into sign shops and t-shirt shops and a lot of the like ground level places you can get a job starting out, as an artist in a town somewhere, so much of that stuff is Corel Draw. And
yeah, wow.
Which is one of the programs that I learned in college. Absolutely hated it, because it's Illustrator before Illustrator was a thing, and I hated it because it was complicated and it was mathematical, and and it was all vector based, and I understood raster. Vector drove me nuts. But when you're cutting vinyl to put on the side of a truck to do lettering, like, those vectors come in really handy. And I ended up using it at work at t-shirt shops and sign shops and stuff for years. And it was just easier to keep getting it and getting the new version of that and upgrading it and having software that I own than switch over to Photoshop to do stuff that wasn't really compatible with the software that we were using every day for what we were doing in those places,
Yeah.
Hey, look, Fish, it's Kyra, now the party can begin.
Absolutely. Kyron's here to start some trouble now. Don't you even start with me about daylight savings time. I don't even want to hear it. I'm not in the mood, Kyron. You don't get to come in 40 minutes into the show and starting stuff. That ain't what we're doing.
He didn't even know what a D20 was last time I was on. So
Kyron, out here embarrassing me. Man, at least pretend. You're like, oh yeah, I had a D21 when I was a kid. I mean, like, at least try. Just, oh, for shame. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the going back to the whole Corel thing, like, yeah, that was something that they were trying to teach us when we were taking college courses in high school. It was pretty interesting.
sorry, Jesse, you're gonna see there's an ongoing joke about him having a butler. He just
Oh, Kyron's filthy rich. He's the 1% of the 1% out living in California. You know, you gotta be rich to even enter the state, much less, you know, live in a guarded compound like Kyron does. Katie sends me pictures of some of his castles in England and Scotland all the time. And frankly, his maintenance staff is really letting the places run down. He must not go visit very often because a lot of them have walls falling down. It's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It brings me so much joy that joke has lasted for so long that I have other people sending me pictures of places across the world. Be like, oh man, Kyron's butler really let the grass grow too far over here. I freaking love the fact, and I didn't even start it. Danny J. Quick started it on their show, and I just ran with it because it was fun.
Look at what Katie said.
Katie says Kyron didn't know what a D20 was because his butler rolls the dice for him. And his butler fudges all the rolls. Let's be honest. That's why the butler rolls it. So he don't know when he rolled a 1. I had to cut down on the maintenance staff to only like 15 people now. Inflation is killing me. Oh, I feel it. I don't know how you do it. You know, Fabergé eggs for breakfast alone cost a lot of money.
Yeah, he used to have 1 butler per side on the D20. Now he's down 15 people.
Really hesitate. Oh my god. Oh, I love that joke.
He's like, and this is when the whole interview derailed.
Yeah. And that's the thing about that's when it got me with daylight savings time. I ended up on a rant that day. And I mean, that rant went all over the place. Man, everything from daylight savings time to politicians to violence in the schools to institutional racism I got a squiggle drawn on that show, and then they got me so derailed I didn't get nothing else done for the rest of the show. But it was kind of cathartic. We sat there and talked for like 2 hours. It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Michael says, wait, this is an interview?
I
mean, it's something. It's a stream.
Yeah. Trying to draw and interview at the same time is kind of tough.
Yeah. We basically just were going to talk, and Fish decided to film it. So
yeah, we're just hanging out.
This also runs the risk. This runs the risk of being like the most boring stream ever, because once you get 2 artists just working, you know, the silent hits, and we just really get into it.
That's why I'm glad that Joe's here, so he can help keep an eye on some things. Like reading some of the comments has been a huge help, because I catch myself sometimes forgetting to look, and usually I have the comments on the bottom of the screen, but that's taking up a lot of real estate with this many of us on the stream at one time. So
and
I
also,
appreciate that.
It's okay.
It's a bit dangerous too. Like my computer could blue screen at any moment, so it's kind of exciting.
It's like a game of Russian roulette with the computers.
Yeah,
How long will it last?
Constantly hit save, and that's because I got a beast of a machine. Like, this is a nice like 12th gen system with like 64. No, how much did I put in there? I know it's over 64 gigs of RAM, and like at least a 30 NVIDIA video card in there and everything. But then I plug in my stupid webcam, and it's like, nope, can't handle that.
Yeah.
And it blue screens randomly and whenever it's plugged in. So I got to get all those USB driver stuff all settled. but it's been fun. Like it's been like, oh yeah, like you just feel so alive. Like when you finish something, you're like, it didn't blue screen once. Thank God.
Yeah, Kyron, I don't know if your setup is the same as ours, but Jesse's is on top right now. He was asking which one is yours and which one is Fish.
I'm the one coloring.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still penciling because there's a lot of characters on this one, and the blue lines just don't show up that great. So I figured I'd let him let you watch something a little bit more interesting for right now, but we can switch it out a little bit. And
Yeah,
show what
Jolie,
I'm
I'm just
working
glad
on.
that there's people on here who know who Ed McMahon is. I think we're one of the few now.
Oh jeez. If you know who Ed McMahon is, like I bet you had trouble getting out of bed this morning.
It's time for your colonoscopy.
Yeah.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, Kyron, we're making a comment. Oh yeah, Kyron wasn't here. Uh, we're making a comic, and Fish is doing one of our variant covers. So
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I really liked what you did on Joe's a lot. So I was like, I really want him to do one, because when I backed your recent Kickstarter as well, because I just really dug like all the art that you did on that. I love group covers. It's like I don't know if you can see my webcam, but up here is my Alex Ross rendition of the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh,
I freaking love that thing. I love anything that those guys did back in DC with all the characters.
man, I'm gonna have to see if I can dig up this poster I did for one client. It had, I think, in the end, it had 127 characters on it,
holy crap!
and they're all like at different poses, doing different things. It's like one of those posters, like Marvel, where they have all the clip art of all the different characters from a million different artists standing
Yeah.
all together, except this is all one thing, and it doesn't look like they're all disconnected images. And like some of them are roughhousing, some of them are posing together, some of them are getting bumped by other people that are roughhousing, some people are staring at other people's chests. Like, I tried to make it all kind of interactive and play together. But yeah, it was like 127 characters or
That's
something
awesome.
right around there. It
I'll
was
know that for
huge.
next time. I was like, oh, can he do 9? But like now you told me that, I'm gonna be like, okay, cool.
He's gonna break your record.
Just for the record,
Yeah.
my price went up on that after that one because I did not charge him enough for that. But honestly, it went a lot faster than I expected. Like I had the whole thing penciled, and I had the whole thing penciled and inked in a day and a half, maybe, because like a lot of them are. I drew the whole characters kind of like I'm doing here, so that I could move them all around and make sure get everything to balance out right. But then when I inked it, I only had to draw like shoulders up on a lot of the characters. Whole lot of hands, but like shoulders up on most of them. And didn't have to draw a whole bunch of legs and boots and feet and stuff once you got past the third row. And
Yeah, Kyron's bringing up that Ultimate homage you did. I saw that one, Kyron. I actually backed your Kickstarter on that one. I didn't get that cover, but I did see that one. And he's asking about the book since he came in 40 minutes late. And so,
that's a shame, Kyron. I'm glad he's calling you out, though. I'm glad he's not letting that go.
Hey, I'm just reading the room. Apparently, that's the thing to do on this show. I learned that the first time. So,
Pick on Kyron. That's one of my favorite things to do.
But
He loves starting trouble, so I love throwing it back.
but anyway, Kyron, this is the book that me and Jesse are working on, called Teen Strike. It's actually 2 books in one. He says it's late for you guys, early for me. Yeah, I know, that's right. That California time. But basically, this is a story that was inspired by both of us. Both of us are from Texas. We grew up in South Texas, which might as well be another country for us, because we were like we're both Hispanic, so we grew up, heavy Hispanic culture here in South Texas, and so this is all kind of based on us growing up around that and deciding, like, if you've got superpowers, what would it be like if you had those in a small town versus in the big city, like every other story that we usually see. And there's definitely a lot of self inserts in here. I don't think he has it ready, but what I'm going to promote, I'm going to share the picture that he used as the inspiration for my character, because I made the mistake of sharing the most embarrassing photo of me from 1997 on a senior trip, where I'm wearing a fanny pack and a windbreaker that I've had forever. I still have that thing because in Texas we don't use jackets and coats for very long, so literally my jackets last me for years. So but yeah, it's just a story set in the late 90s. It's about a group of friends that start discovering they have superpowers, and it's just there is kind of like a mystery of why it's happening and why is it only happening to certain ones, and it's a story that I know Jesse's been wanting to tell for a long time. He's had it in his head since high school. I got to know these guys in college, and we've been friends ever since. And so yeah, we're going to be launching here in May. And if you just type in teenstrike.com, it'll actually take you straight to the Kickstarter, so you can sign up for it. But yeah, it's just a fun book. I mean, you can see Jesse's working on, was it issue 3 already? Because this is issue, like I said, 1 and 2 in one big book. And
I was going to say, it's a big book. I got the digital file to look through to read and everything. It's a nice big book.
Yeah, it's to be frank, I was working on the first page or the first book, and I was like, yeah, this is great. And then I kind of stopped and I was like, wait, this is a little boring. Like, it's a lot of exposition for the, because it's the first issue. And I was like, nothing happens. And I was like, oh, everything happens in the second issue. So I just was like, yeah, let me just put them together as one. So that way, at least there's a payoff for the people that way they can be introduced to the full process of the exposition in the beginning that kind of introduces you to the characters, and you kind of like figure out, like, you get the sense of like their personalities. And then the second issue is basically what they do as superheroes and how that process works. And at the end of that, it's just one complete arc. And it's like, okay, now you know the whole setup. And then from issue 3 forward, it's basically each issue is balanced in a way that there's a payoff. There's like an introduction to something, a setup, and then there's a payoff at the end of it. There's some action in every single comic going forward. But they all right now average between 20. I think the smallest one I have is 26 pages, and I know the biggest one is this one, which is 60 pages, but the final issue in the first 7, because this is 7 issues for the first major story arc. That one is also a big beefy boy. That's I think another almost 60 pages. The last book.
Yeah, I kind of liken this book to the way, like, when streaming services are like, well, you can watch the first 2 episodes tonight or whatever. It's kind of like that. And usually you can tell when you watch the first episode, you're like, yeah, that was a lot of setup. Second one's so it was a good thing. And it's funny because we did test it out. We did test it out at a convention here this past weekend, and I think we did pretty good considering that. I mean, it's a $14 book, 60 pages, and I think over the 2 days of the con, I only had one person kind of back away whenever they saw the price, and they were ready to get it though. So other than that, most everybody was like, yeah, that's 2 issues of a comic basically stuck together, $7 each, 14. I can do that. So
yeah, and the thing is, like, the entire book bleeds art. Like, there's not, like, you can ask Joe, like, my struggle with including the Comic Will Springs ad in there. They do great work, but I was like, I did not design that page. Like, I don't like the way they designed it. I'm like, it's just big and kind of gaudy, and I'm just like, this just doesn't look good. And eventually, I was in their Dropbox and I saw that they had this little round button that just says printed with Comic Will Springs on it. And I was like, how do you use this, Joe? And so I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna try something. And so I designed the inside back cover to be like, hey, come to our store, buy all these books, and all this and that. And then I just took that logo and I put it over it and I submitted it that way, and I still got the discount. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. So it's just one little round button that you can put in there. You don't have to devote an entire page. You can still advertise your books, save yourself a page, and put that in there. And that was the coolest thing. Now I'm like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
okay, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and it allowed him to do this design, which I know he was wanting to do, where the back of the book is going to be each character. So it's starting with Jesse. So
Yeah, you can open
cool.
up the inside back
Oh yes.
so they can see.
So this is the ad that he made, and then you can see the button right there.
And that button got you the discount. That's cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it's going towards advertising for us and all that stuff. So we don't have to waste 2 pages on that. We just combine them both into one. And hey, man, and I submitted it. It worked. I was like, fantastic. I really dig that.
Yeah. I mean, I've up until this point, I have always done the Kablam ads on the back of my books for 2 reasons. One, because it saves me money on the book because they pay for that spot like it's advertising. And up until this point, I've always been, why would I not want to save money on the book?
Yeah.
And 2, it was one of those ads on the back of the book that got me started in comics. Like, that's what led me to the website to find out that I could actually do this affordably and I could make a book that, I could afford to print and all that, and opened up a whole world of having a whole new job now and getting to make comics full time. I owe them. I love them for that. But also now I'm starting to get to the point of that's a lot of real estate to give up. And so I'm starting to think, would I be better suited off having an ad for my stuff there and, an ad for my other books and whatnot. So it
That's
might
kind of the way
change.
I'm approaching it.
Yeah, I might change it soon to be more my own stuff, but I've used it all up until now and enjoyed it.
Yeah, Kablam, in comparing the both, it's definitely still the cheaper option overall. But they do, like you were just saying, like they have to have it on the back or whatever. So I was telling Jesse, like, there's certain books that were smaller books that we were printing, because at the cons we try to have like a variety of priced books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the one that you did the other part of the cover for, Malia Mayhem. She's her 0 issue. It's only 12 pages, but it's $4. But parents love that because they're like, yeah, the kid asked for it, and it's less. I can literally hand you a $5 bill, and the kid's happy. They usually love the interior art, So Kablam might be my go-to for that book, because Comics Wellspring has kind of priced me out of that book now with their updated pricing, even with the discount.
Yeah.
But the bigger books, are still going to work out. So
I was going to say, I started doing
stuff.
these little guys, and I'm going to take a bunch of these to shows, because, like, I've got a large format printer, so I can print like 11 by 17 sheets on it. So I get 2 of these out of 1 sheet of double-sided glossy paper, so they're like 17 cents a piece to print. I can sell that for like $1.50 or something all day long. I'm actually going to make a little pack with these and like wrap it like a pack of trading cards, and have these trading cards, stick of gum, silicone wristband, like stickers and stuff, and sell it for like $4, and it cost me like 60 something cents to put together.
Yeah.
And have something cheap that the kids can get, like you said, and feel like they're really getting something, and be able to get something and not miss that sale when a kid's excited, but maybe they don't want to buy a $10 comic.
Yeah, those little bastards will never know how much it actually costs.
real quick, Jolie was saying he's going to have the ad yeah, that's what we're saying, Jolie. That is the Comics Wellspring ad. If you look in their Dropbox, it's this round circle. It says printed by Comics Wellspring. So that does count for your discount, just to let you know. But as you see, Jesse created this ad for all our comics. So in essence, he's adhering to their discount requirements, but he did this custom ad so that way we can advertise our own websites.
I mean,
So
I think they didn't tell me they didn't give me the discount. I just paid for it. Like, who knows?
Mhm.
Like, the world may never know.
pretty sure they gave it to you.
Think, right?
Well, because you choose it, you choose it before you submit it. Like it's already worked in there. So it's not like they went back to your card and charged you more.
Michael says, how many pages is that little booklet? It is 8 pages, counting the front and back cover. And let me put myself up here so you can see it a little bit better. The back cover, I did the same thing. It's an ad for the rest of my books. Like, if you like these, check them out. And then I got the QR code that takes you to my link tree, and you can subscribe to the newsletter and get 2 free digital comics and check them out. You can go right to my website or the TikTok shop and buy the books there. Everything is right there. You can go to the Patreon and subscribe and get a brand new comic shipped to your house every month for $10. That's right, just $10, including shipping. And I just shipped out the Mighty Caw 3 to my backers for March, and it doesn't go to Kickstarter until May 1st. They got an exclusive Patreon-only variant cover. I have 3 copies left, so the next 3 people that join the Patreon at the physical level for $10 will not only get Fishtails Volume 2 next month, but they'll get that issue 3 of Caw before anybody else does. So, hey, that's an incentive. But, yeah, it's 8 pages counting the covers. So, like, I did the first page is on the inside of the front cover, and the last page is on the inside of the back cover. And gave me plenty of room to do introductions of my stories. I did one for Green Zone. I did one for T-Man and Hyperstrike. I'm planning on doing one for my Fishtails anthology. And they're really cool. I'm going to do some for like the different characters in Green Zone. And the other neat thing, not for nothing, is if you have the artwork already, you can repurpose a lot of that artwork, and with some new lettering, boom, you've got a whole new little story real quick. Like, I tell the whole little story of how, Caw got sent to the arena as a kid, how he had to fight every day and, became who he is. And all of the Caw one is recycled art with new lettering. It makes a whole new little story, has new information that you don't get anywhere else. It's pretty cool. And it was easy to do. So it wasn't super expensive if you're not an artist and you want to reuse stuff that you've already got. It worked out really well.
Yeah, I don't know if any of y'all said it, but those remind me of the old little mini comics and the He-Man figures.
And they're the same size, too. It was so much fun, like, shuffling them together and taking pictures and be like, oh, one of these things is not like the other. I'm glad you're taking them, Kyron. I hope you have a lot of fun with them. I hope the kids love them. And that's the thing. Like, these are costing me, I can get one of them for 17 cents, or I could double it up, and I've got a template on my Patreon that you can download for free. I've got a Clip Studio template that gives you the page layout and everything. I'm on large myself again. Hold on. Got to get on the right screen. I got too many freaking screens here. I've got a template that has the page layout and has like the little numbers and stuff in the corner for you. It's all the right size. And I have a layout for the whole sheet and like where page 1 and page 2 and all that stuff goes. So when you print it out, you can fold it. I've also got videos on the Patreon that you can watch for free that show you, like, literally walked through printing a whole bunch of these. I got videos that show you how we laid them up and set them up and everything to make it work. And there's also templates if you want to do it, 1 extra fold of the paper and 1 extra cut when you're done, and you end up with a 16-page book, which I'm doing for my Kickstarter because you probably know him from TikTok. Irrepressible Papa Bear, Irrepressible Comics did Colonel Jefferson comic book recently. His Kickstarter's launching May 1st too. So as a cross promotion, we're doing a 16-page mini comic, and it's going to be a flip book. So in one half, you're going to have a story I'm doing about our worlds crossing over, and then you flip it over, and it'll be a story he's doing about our worlds crossing over. And he has a Cro-Magnon that got trapped in Colonel Jefferson's world and is now an accountant and ends up challenging the head of HR to a death match for jamming the copier. It's freaking hilarious. I laughed so hard. And then mine is a whole like Last Starfighter homage crossed with one of those old Hostess fruit pie ads from the comic books. And it's
Oh my gosh.
it's so I love it. It's funny, and you'll get that mini comic shipped out to you if you back both of the Kickstarters at the physical tier. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That reminds me of that Adult Swim cartoon. What was it? The lawyer, where he was. It was like only like 1 or 2 episodes that they put out. They tested it out, but it's a Cro-Magnon dude like stuck in today's world.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I
He's
remember
like a
that.
wife, and yeah, he's just his normal life. His kid hates him. All this stuff, doesn't think he's tough.
Yeah, the fake ads are fun. Jesse's got a couple of fake ads
Yeah, he
in
does.
this one. Yeah, you
I
saw
had
them.
to check
Yeah.
that one out for a minute. I was like, is somebody
Yeah.
really doing that? And then I saw the next one and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like for a minute, I thought like somebody was really making that movie. I'm
Yeah,
like, they
no,
must have paid a
I
lot
love
for that ad.
I love making fake ads. Let me show you one of the new ones that I did.
Oh, I think I know what you're going to show. It's awesome.
Yeah, this one.
Yes. Oh, I love this one.
Let me
Yeah.
see. That's the. Wait, did I put that together?
The original.
So I spoofed this one here. Where the hell? I'm opening up Affinity Designer. I guess I did put it all together in Affinity Designer. Oh, that's right, because I did it all in Photoshop. Come on. Okay. Yeah, here's the spoof ad for
Oh, yeah.
this.
Oh, awesome.
So I went and man, I found a website that just documented toys, and I went in there and I photo bashed everything I could find together to make characters from the Raven Man kind of thing that's in our comic book. Raven Man for in Teen Strike is what the kids read. It's Raven Man. We're not shy of like using actual names of heroes, but we wanted something that just was just the 90s, the like 90s defined, which is, so he's kind of a mix of Batman, Wolverine, Grifter, and Spawn put all together, and it's just grim and gritty type things.
Violent, and
Yeah,
lots of
and so-
pouches and leather, and yeah.
And so on that other one, the Raven Man Returns one, that one also was a huge just kit bash of just everything I could find on the internet. Kind of a kit bash paint over of the Batman Forever poster. And so for this one, I've always really liked the 90s X-Men toy ad that they had. That was so iconic to me every time I was flipping through the pages. So I decided to try and spoof that. So I was like, I'm gonna do something crazy. And I'm like, I'm gonna make these characters as toys. And so I just went in there and kit bashed as much stuff as I could. Like I tried to keep to the Toy Biz early 90s stuff, but every so often I had to reach somewhere else to pull something from. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That is awesome. I've honestly just recently been doing a whole bunch of drawings of public domain characters as Mego figures, and
awesome.
It's been so much fun. And because one of my clients, Roy Johnson, does the Sentinels, and it's mostly public domain characters reimagined as if they survived and became a Justice League of their own. And all the comics have been retro and had like an 80s vibe, but this one is going back to like the 60s or 70s and being their like first issue when they got together. And so we're working on some ads for the Mego toys and like trying to figure out what parts of the costumes do we simplify, and like what parts would they just cheat and reuse parts from something else because
Yeah.
Economy was king in making those action figures. So like I had to make a helmet for one character that was special, but then we got to use that on several other characters and make it work because that's what they would do. And Oh, I loved it.
Was that my
Oh,
butler?
you see, that's Uncle Butler. Is that character's
Yeah.
name?
Yeah, I was trying to think of something stupid, and I'm like, well, back then they would just do action features for everything. I was like, what if we gave a jetpack to the butler, and he's holding his little tea set still?
That's awesome. I love Yeet Presents. That was one of the first places I got to see my work in print. I love Yeet for that.
My covert action. This is when he's sneaking around outside of his disguise. He's got that big ass gun and night vision goggles and big old RM across his chest, so he's undercover. Yeah, we're planning on doing this as a little one shot book too. The Raven Man is just absolutely ridiculous, like grit, and it's everything the '90s comics are. Like it, everything is just there's so much hate. When I was writing that issue, I was just like thinking in my mind, he's like, oh, what does he say? He says, the city is dark, or no, he said the night is dark, dark like my soul, dark like my heart. All this kind of stuff, and he's just like, make them pay the ultimate price, and he's
The
just
city is
all
a
over.
sewer filled with scum and villainy.
Yeah, so
Oh,
the whole
Yep.
story is Raven Man and Cat Lady are trying to track down someone is taking the city's orphans and turning them into drug mules, and so they have to the whole purpose of the book is to just introduce as many characters as possible, so I can we can get it all together, just be like, this is what this is. So he's just going through, just beating the crap out of everyone. And Cat Lady, I'm taking that to the extreme. She's always carrying a wine bottle, and she's like in a robe, and she kind of has curlers in her hair and stuff all the time. And her and Raven Man had a thing, and she's hung up on that, and she can't let it go. But Raven Man just totally ignores her all the time, and they're tearing through the city in their Raven mobile, and it's just like this big Frank Miller-esque Bigfoot like truck is just tearing, blowing cars apart as they're trying to save the city, and it's just absolute insanity. Which that's what I loved about Spawn and stuff like that. So it'll be fun to actually be able to kick that out at some point.
hmm
Really looking forward to that.
that sounds like a lot of fun. That's cool. I absolutely gonna check that out.
Yeah, man. Like my day job is, I make video games. I work over at Gearbox Software on Borderlands and all that stuff.
You poor
We
thing.
yeah, we spend like 6 years on a project,
Yeah.
and we put it out, and we get instant reviews. Luckily, Borderlands is generally well received, but we put it out and people will form their judgment within like 30 minutes. I have worked on other games in the past that we spend a lot of time on it, and as soon as we put it out, like within 30 minutes you get negative reviews. They're like, this is crap, I'm not playing it, and you just spent like 2 years of your life working and slaving on this thing. Whereas like it's kind of refreshing making comics, because literally this comic that we're working on right now didn't exist a year ago. A year ago I was still writing it, and
hmm
I think in May or June is when I got my artist, and I started having him work with me and do all the concepts and all this and that. So the engine started then, and now we're on issue 3, and I'm trying to keep up with him because he's just kicking these pages out. And it's so nice that once, obviously there was a lot of work up front, so I did work on the script, and I actually was doing this as a video game first. And so I modeled all the characters out in 3D and everything like that.
Oh, cool.
And then I was just kind of like, this is gonna just take too much of my time. So I was like, let's just do this as a traditional comic. And then that's when Roy and Joe sent me their first comic, and I was just kind of like looking at it, and I was like, man, we always talked about this in high school. Why did we never do this? And I was like, you know what, I could do this. And so
Because you couldn't do it that easy in high school. That's why it didn't
No, yeah.
exist back then.
Yeah,
Like-
for sure. Joe and I were trying to reminisce about that. Like, Kablam has been around forever. And then there was another one in Canada that I can't remember what that one was called, but I remember a lot of indie guys would go to Canada to print, and this is even like Image and all them. They would print out in Canada. And so that's what everyone was using. But yeah, we didn't have the Kickstarters, and I'm talking about like the early 2000s, not like the early 2010s. But still, either way, like nothing prevented us from making an ash can. You know,
Yeah.
like we could exactly that. Like that little mini book that you did is fantastic because that's what I did for this book. Is I just went to FedEx and I was just like, yeah, and I just printed it all out. I cut it up, I stapled it all together, and I sat there and I was just thumbing through it, like proofreading it and all that stuff. And I was like, man, you could just. Why did we never do this?
Mhm.
And so it's a great feeling, you know, after working on projects that are like years and years. Like my current project, I think we're about to enter year 5 on it, and you know it comes out next year, and it's like, oh geez, like God, like
I
I'm
don't
just
know if I could do that. I mean, I
yeah,
tried to get into video games after college. That's what I went to college for. But they didn't tell us in college that like when those job offers come out at the end of the school year, there's 5,000-6,000 people applying for each
oh
one.
yeah,
And your demo video has to stand out amongst all those. And I went to a small school and I was the best artist and I was a better artist than any of my teachers. So they just sat around telling me how awesome I was and not like contradicting me or telling me, you know, you really need to get a good demo video together. So I just piddled and jumped from one cool ADD idea to the next. And when I got out, I had a bunch of scraps and not like a really cool demo video. And I got
yeah,
a lot of offers, but one reason or another, they fell through. Like one place decided to buy motion capture equipment instead of hire me. And I'm like, I can't really blame you. I mean, that's going to replace a lot of jobs right there. I
Yeah.
can't blame you. That's a good deal.
that's
Yeah, I was telling Jesse, it's just a lot easier too nowadays. I mean, you know, Chuck Pino, he's the one that showed me
Mhm.
that this can be done, you know, and I was just like, wow, he's the one that showed me
Kyron,
comic spring, and
Kyron was instrumental in getting me off my butt because I backed Saw the Lightning Wielder, and then I was like, okay, I can really do this, and it can come out looking really nice, and you know, it doesn't have to be like, oh, bless your heart, you tried to make a comic. Like it can come out looking good,
yeah,
and I was afraid of putting all that hard work into it and it coming out looking like, oh, you tried, but no, I mean, it came out looking great,
yep.
and so that pushed me and got me off the couch, and I'm grateful for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like
yeah, we've been
there's one other
playing this
thing
for
that
so long. In the How to Hunt a Hero, I had an old joke about DSL. That's how long ago I wrote the script. Oh, and we had it saved on actual discs too. I still have mine. It says the original.
like
Yeah.
what was it? It just yeah, it's just you know from a business standpoint, it's the fastest way really to get IPs out and locked
Hmm.
under your mantle. You know, and that's not the fun part. You know, I don't like saying that stuff, but that's also something to take into consideration.
It
If you
is.
have an idea, if you have an idea and you're like, man, I really want to do this, make a comic book, put it out there, boom, it's yours. You know, as long as you keep kind of like practicing and keep like putting stuff out there, you know that's going to be yours there in case anyone else tries to jump on something in a similar way.
Hmm.
Like like it's been in the back of my mind forever. Like I've owned teenstrike.com since like 2008 or something like that, and I just never did anything with it. Let's see.
Every time Fish says that story, I can't tell if he's complimenting me or saying he could do it better than me. No, I'm absolutely trying to compliment you. You just won't let that negative self talk get out of your head. I'm on Kyron about that all
Trying,
the
you know,
time,
say
man.
that right.
That negative self talk, man, that
I'll kill you, man.
it will. So, what do you think of this so far? They got more detailed as I went because you know I was having
Yeah,
fun,
badass.
but I mean they're all
Yeah,
separate little images I can move around if I need to move anything. And if you want a second to like really look over it, that's totally cool. Or I can move on and start inking, whatever you want to do.
we are missing one guy.
Oh, are
Missing
we?
Dave. Yeah, missing Dave,
Okay. Let me go back and check.
the purple one.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I was going to draw him, and then I drew the big brown dude. You're absolutely right. All right, let's.
Yeah, I really like Travis down there. That corner shot is really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so if you thought it was difficult to get into the game industry then, like you should see it now. I do a lot of talks at schools and stuff, and one of the things I like to tell people is like, especially students. I'm like, this is, it's not going to be easy. Like, you can't just, walk your way into the game industry. I like, because now you got to deal with people like me who have 23 years worth of experience and almost 60 games shipped under my belt. Like, you're going to be up against people like me, and I go, and we're going to
Mhm.
take those jobs from you because we're more experienced. So like, you guys got to get real serious about this stuff, and understand who your competitions are, because you have to stand out, and that means going out there and actually going a little bit beyond and going that extra mile. Like, it sucks, but that's just the nature of it,
And just
I
because like you're the only person you may know that wants to do that with a passion, you're not the only person out there. You're not the only person in town. You're not the only
Yep.
person in the state. You're not the only person that's going to apply to that job. And it's easy to think like, "Oh, I'm the best artist in town because you're the best artist you know." But you're not going up against the people you know. You're going up against professionals that have been doing this for a while.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was a big bit of humble pie. Like, even in high school, I wasn't the best artist. Our friend Roy was the best artist, and I was always in his shadow. And he taught me a lot of things. And so when I got to college, I didn't go in there thinking I was the hot shit, but I immediately got thrown. It was at the Art Institute of Dallas, and I got thrown into the best artists in Texas. Like, it was a whole different world, because again, we were from South Texas, where literally the valley is so isolated, that you literally could be the best artist in the entire valley.
Hmm.
And we actually knew the best artist in the entire valley. It was the guy from Harlingen South. Like, that dude was amazing. I wonder what he's doing now, but that guy drew like Dale Kwan. Kind of like Dale Kwan meets like Jim Lee. Like, he actually, I don't know if he was looking at reference or anything, but every time we saw some of his work, we didn't actually know him, but when we would go to the mall in his town, we would see like his artwork in various places, like, come watch the game or whatever, and he drew this badass like hawk, with all these muscles and stuff, and we would take them and keep them because they were like artwork for us, and all that. But like, I wonder what that dude's doing. Like, I don't know, because I knew so many people back then that were so talented with so many things, but
And
uh,
then didn't do anything with it. Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, they just kind of got stuck a little bit. And it sucks. It's unfair, I think, for me to really say stuck, because to me it's stuck. To them, if they're loving their life, fantastic, more power to them.
Yeah. I
But
mean, this isn't for everybody. I tell people that all the time. It's
oh
okay
yeah,
to enjoy art. It's okay to do it for a hobby. It's okay to do comics for a hobby. You don't have to try and make it your day job, because it's a tough gig to try and make a living in.
oh yeah,
But
absolutely. But it's just one of those where it's like, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think moving up to,
Mhm.
to Dallas is probably the best decision I ever made in my entire life. It got me out of my hometown, and really kicked me in the butt to do stuff. Learning anatomy, color theory in college. Man, that was day and night for my art skills in college. Kind of miss it.
I miss the fun challenge of having other talented artists around. Like
Yeah.
when I moved to Conway, I met a dude that was going to college here. I came up here after college, but he was still in college. We worked at a t-shirt shop together, and we were so much the same on so many things that we became an amazing competition for each other. And like he started sculpting these gigantic, huge, realistic busts, so I started sculpting these little bitty tiny miniatures, that were an inch and a quarter tall maybe, and I'm sculpting the buttons on their clothes and the writing on the scrolls in their pockets and the mechanics in their cybernetic arms with all these magnifying lenses, and he's doing this giant stuff, and we were just great competition for each other, and I miss that so much.
Yeah, that was one of the things. I think the best thing,
Absolutely, I do.
one of the best things that the Art Institute did for me was giving my network. There's so many people, like my roommate now. I met him in college, 27 years ago or whatever, and we just have been inseparable um, ever since. And it's just, one big old love story. Still better than Twilight. But that's the type of stuff that I found to be just invaluable. Like all the connections that I made and all my game industry connections. My first game job and all that stuff, came from connections that I made at the Art Institute, which was really awesome. But other than that, the school is garbage and a waste of money.
Yeah, like the best thing I got out of going to school was I got a degree that told strangers I know what I'm doing in this field, because just being able to do it didn't mean anything. I needed somebody else telling them that I can do it.
Yeah.
And that was enough to start getting me jobs. And one of the friends that I made is still a lifelong friend that we don't see each other very often, but when we do, it's one of those like time hasn't passed. We just get to cracking up.
Yeah.
And that friendship and one shading technique, those are the things I learned. Oh, and Clip Studio, or not Clip Studio, Corel Draw. I learned Corel Draw, and I made a lot of money using Corel Draw over the years. Those are the things I learned in college, and I appreciate them. But
Yeah.
wasn't worth the hassle.
Yeah, actually, that brings me back to what I was gonna say before was for me, 'cause I started using Clip Studio in 20. I want to say it was around 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. It was right around when they dropped the Manga Studio name, and they did the whole whatever.
That's about the same time I came in. Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Painter. I love Painter. It was owned by a whole lot of, and Painter's still around, but it was owned by a lot of different people over time. And but Painter was the one. Painter 6 was my baby, man. I loved Painter so much, and I did a lot of concept work for a lot of games using that. And I think I stopped using Painter 6 in 2010, 2011, because it just no longer was supported by the operating system. Like it was that old.
Yeah, that was my problem. Like I was running on an old edition of Corel Draw for the longest time, just because it got to the point I didn't need to upgrade anymore. Like I wasn't trying to. I was pretty much just doing work for myself. And then when I upgraded my computer to a better computer to work on, it wouldn't work with that old version anymore, and I had to go buy a new one. And I was kind of salty about that because it worked for so long.
I don't know. Given your experience with vector graphics, do you ever remember Adobe Streamline?
No.
God, I loved Adobe Streamline. That was a dumbed down Illustrator. Basically, all it was a trace function in Illustrator. You would import your raster images, and then you hit you'd adjust your settings. You hit trace, and it would just trace the images and make them vector. God, I love.
It's Corel Trace. Program. It's the same thing. Yeah, I love that. I love that in Corel because I could just sit there and draw something with a Sharpie so quick and scan it, and then have that complex image brought in, and then we could be sending it to the router to cut, or I could be cutting it on vinyl and sticking on the side of somebody's building so quickly. I loved that.
Yeah, that hurt when they stopped supporting that, and eventually just got old, and you couldn't use it on non 32-bit machines anymore. 64-bit machines were just not the architecture it was based on, and I lost that function. So I've been looking forever for a replacement for that. And even as much as I love my Infinity stuff, I need to go in there and I think it's Affinity Photo, I think, does the tracing thing. And I gotta look that up. I just haven't had a need to do it recently. But hey, going back to praising Clip Studio, the way it handles vector and raster together just blows my mind.
So sweet. I mean, being able to ink in a vector layer and go back and adjust those lines, tweak them if I need to, move it a hair, change the thickness is freaking brilliant. And then to be able to so quickly go in and paint too, and the way I can set that vector layer as a reference and paint on another layer, and it just stops at those lines. I can set the bleed trim like you were talking about to however many pixels I want it to be.
Yep.
It will close in the gaps,
Yep.
which is brilliant. I don't know why somebody didn't do that earlier. Because
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
bad about leaving little spots because I don't like to fill in the whole line. Like I like to use it as a highlight where the line just got thin enough it disappeared. And
Yep.
it'll be like, oh, okay, we'll fill that in for you. We're good.
Joe, you've been pretty quiet. What are your thoughts on vector versus raster?
Yeah, that's what we all really want to know.
Yeah.
I know that's what Katie and Michael are here for. They want to know your thoughts on.
Yeah, this became the most boring podcast for like the past like 20 minutes. Two old men talking about legacy software.
Back in my day.
You're younger than me, sir. So
I mean, kids don't know how good they have it these days.
oh wait. No, I do have my comment. So vector is fire. How about that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Back in my day, we used True Space for our 3D, and we liked it. We were happy with it.
Oh
We didn't
no.
need meshes
Oh,
and
no,
deformations, and particle effects here. We
Look at
faked
Kyron
it.
trying to start stuff. I'm over here trying to take a nap and he's trying to start things.
That's the way a Kyron does. Man, he always be starting stuff.
Joe, it's vector be bussin'.
Oh god. It's
That's the
legit.
technical term. No cap.
No cap. Joe is the old man in this chat.
Am I?
I think so.
I'm almost 50, so I don't know.
Yeah, but at the end
Oh.
of the day, you're only as old as you let yourself as your heart, right? So I'm still 27. That's
If you
not
ask
wrong.
my wife, who's been annoyed that I found this vintage cartoon channel, and every time she comes home from work, I'm watching like the Herculoids and
Oh yeah.
Space Ghost and stuff, and Captain Caveman, she'd probably say I'm 12, but
That's okay. My wife would say the same, but she knew who she was marrying. So
oh yeah, I didn't pull any punches. I remember on our first date, I was like, okay, look, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be weird. I'm gonna be 100% who I really am. You be 100% who you are. If it works out, great. If not, we figure it out quicker sooner than later. There's no point in pretending to be some Joe Cool version of who I am. Like, nah, I'm just gonna be the funny weirdo that I am. If you dig funny
everybody say
weirdos,
hi, Kyron.
we're good. Oh
Everybody-
man.
He's running away because I didn't want to answer his question.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's kind of like the story with my wife and all that, you know, given how where she grew up in Brazil and all that, like they really weren't too big on women over there being nerdy and stuff. So when she got here with me, like it just kind of changed everything. Now she's like the Pikachu queen.
It's funny when I finally got to the point where I was ready to start thinking about dating again. I was like, you know, I might get lucky at a Comic-Con and something, you know, find some, you know, cute chubby little like cosplay mom, and you know, we go hang out at shows together. Maybe I'll meet a writer or something. And I met an optician who could not care less about comics and stuff. She's super supportive, and she goes with me to all these cons. After a guy tried to mug me in Dallas with Chuck Pinot, staying in what turned out to be a whorehouse, but staying in a cheap hotel for a con. And a dude tried to mug me as I was on my way to chew out the manager for the condition of our sheets. After that, she's always gone with me to cons for some reason. It doesn't like me going by myself.
That's weird.
And now I get to stay at such nice places.
Nice.
No more like sleeping in the van or any of that stuff. That stuff's
By the
all
river.
done now.
Look, wait a minute. My cousin's over here saying, sadly, I too am married. What do you mean, sadly? Says my next attempt at dating will have to be carbon 14 dating, he says.
Now, Joe, is he really your cousin, or is he like the Latino? Like, he's my cousin.
No, well, he's both actually. If you want to look at it that way,
Because we got cousins here, we got cousins there.
there's like 30 different. What did Michael say? There are like 30 different story layers to this hotel story. Yeah, I'm sure there was lots of layers to those sheets too, but I don't want to hear about it. So.
Oh, but you do not. You would understand why I was so hot when I was
could
on the way
understand.
to the manager's
Yeah,
office.
you would almost.
And
Yeah.
dude comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, let me hold $50." And I was like, "I ain't got time for this." He's like, "I don't think you understand." And I was like, "I don't think you understand. I'm fixing to go take somebody's head off. You either come with or leave me the hell alone." And I kept walking. And he's just like, What am I supposed to do?"
Go. You need to go home and think about your life.
Man, we had a lady of the night beating on our door, screaming for her pimp in the middle of the night because she had the wrong room.
You should have had Chuck go answer that.
Yeah, Chuck wasn't going nowhere. Chuck wasn't going near that door.
Oh man.
That was a lot of fun. I had so much fun with Chuck, and it was completely last minute. It was Dallas Fan Expo, the first time they came back after closing for COVID, and he had a table left over from when they had closed, and all of a sudden, everybody that was going to share a table with him couldn't go, and so he was scrambling, and he's like, "Wait a minute, Fish lives near Texas. They lives in Arkansas." And he hit me up and was like, "Hey, you want to go to Dallas Con last minute?" And I was like, what the heck? Let's do it. And, oh, we had a blast.
Yeah, Arkansas is close to Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Closest.
6-hour drive. That ain't too bad.
Yeah.
It's a lot closer than going to Ohio for a con.
Yeah, I'll be in Oklahoma for GalaxyCon here in about a month or so. See how that goes. Yeah, GalaxyCon was a trip when we were there in Austin last year, and it was big. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Oklahoma City crowd brings. Hopefully they're starved for content over there, and we can make some good sales. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm fine one way or another. I'm just happy to be able to start doing these things again.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, our friend asked me once. He was like, because I'm doing this for fun. I'm fortunate enough. I can at least talk from privilege that I have a very well-paying job, and therefore, unlike some indie comic creators, they need this to be sustainable. I don't need it to be sustainable. This is I'm doing this for fun. I'm having fun. Basically, everything you see behind me is my video game collection. I'm just not buying video games and using that money now for this. It's like a hobby, right? And it's like, instead of going camping and using money going camping, I'm just making a comic book. So,
which is perfectly cool.
Yeah, he asked me. He's like, so how do you know this is successful? Like, what is your measurement for success? And I was like, honestly, dude, for me, it doesn't really matter. For me, it's not financial at all. This is something that
am I having fun?
We should have done this a long time ago. Well, yeah, but at the same time, so this, as Joe was saying, this is something that we wrote back in high school. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just my friend Roy and I doing this. It was a lot of us. We were all like, "Oh yeah, I'll contribute." We would write little stories and stuff. And we had a friend named Jerry who would contribute as well. And Jerry ended up passing away, and that kind of hit us real hard because he's the first from our inner friend circle to pass away. Mm-hmm. And I kind of just sat there, and we started talking about legacy one day, and I was like, everyone has their own measurement for success, their own legacy. We all have to kind of define what is our legacy when we pass on. It could be kids, it could be property that you pass on, it could be, I don't know, financial things, it could be I have a whole trail of video games that I worked on that I'm leaving. I'm like, but what was Jerry's legacy? And I'm like, outside of us, who's actually going to remember Jerry? And we're like, I don't think anyone is going to remember Jerry, because all the entirety of Jerry's memories are contained within like 4 of us, and that's it. And it's like, it sucks, because he's such a good friend, and it's one of those where I just sat there for a while, for several months, just trying to take it all in and process grieving. And yeah, that's what I decided to do. I was like, he's gonna have to live on in these pages, like in the forward, the forward of the comic book, I put there is that this is one last adventure with my friends, basically. And yeah, it just kind of sucks, like, we're not getting any younger, right? And at some point, we're all going to begin passing away, and you've always wanted to do these things with your friends, and nothing ever really stopped you other than just being distracted by other things. So I'm going to try real hard to not let that happen again. And I'll be damned if I have to put another memorial to another close friend in any of my other projects before I can finish them. And that's kind of like one of the main things that I'm doing this comic for, is to just process through my grief. So when I was like, what's the measurement of my success, I'm like, I don't know, it's just getting through it. Like, this is more personal to me than it being a good business choice. If I was looking for a good business choice, I wouldn't be in comics.
No.
That's not the thing. That's not why we do it. And so like, no, this is a personal journey that I need to go through. I need to get through this because this is the only way I know how, is to grieve through the creative process. And I say I create to fill the void left by death, and so that's kind of what drives me. So if I can reach some kid out there that just needs to have some fun with some friends but doesn't have real life friends and needs to escape somewhere, fantastic, mission accomplished. If someone out there really likes Jerry's character, oh, he's funny, this and that, fantastic, mission accomplished. That's all I need.
That's something that a lot of people get weird when I talk about sometimes, but that's a big part of why I work so hard. And a lot of people are like, man, you need to slow down, because I'm literally knocking out a book a month over here at least. And sometimes that's on top of working for clients as well. But I'm like, I've got a lot of stories that I have been sitting on. Some of them I've been sitting on for 20 years.
Yep.
And they need to get told as quickly as possible. And we don't know how long we've got left. And I spent 15 years of my life stuck in a wheelchair and couldn't walk, talk, or see most days. And it was brutal. I'm lucky to be doing as well as I'm doing now. And though part of the reason I do comics for a living is because I've still got to work around my disability. And some days, like the other day, I just suddenly couldn't move my arm anymore and couldn't move half my face. So, instead of drawing, I did other stuff and did maintenance stuff and returned messages and backed up files and things like that. But I know really well what it's like to not be able to do the things that I wanted to do. And now that I can again, I'm going to get as much done in the time I got left as I possibly can. It's
Absolutely.
not morbid. I'm just fully aware that I'm not going to be here forever. And I want to go out telling as many stories as I can.
Yep.
And
so how familiar does this sound?
I mean,
Sorry,
we've all
Michael.
lost a lot of friends, and especially in the comic circles, like I've lost a lot of friends recently, and you don't know how long you got, man. You got to make hay while the sun's shining,
Yeah, like I've had almost verbatim, I've had this conversation with Joe and Roy, where I tell them, I'm like, I'm not really afraid of anything, like I wouldn't be where I am if I was afraid of doing things. I go, but the one thing I'm afraid of is death. I go, and it's not the traditional, oh, I'm afraid of dying. No, I don't care. Like, I've done so much in my career, in my life, that I could die pretty happy. Like I've seen the world, I've done lots of things, but I'm afraid of death because that is when I stop creating, and I don't know how to process a life where I'm not creating.
Yeah, like I'm not afraid of not being here. I know I've invested enough in my kids and my friends and stuff. Like I made a difference. I'm fine if I'm not here. I will regret not being here to help some people out and still be that friend. But I'm fine with that part. Not getting my stories told, that's the part that kills me. That's the part that I really need to get done. I want to get as many of them out there as possible. And one of the things that brings me joy is that in my new Fishtails anthology, I'm finally getting to tell that story I've been working on for over 20 years. And I had to shuffle it up and rearrange it, and I decided to replace one of the female characters in the story with Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and which lets me bring in all kinds of public domain characters with the multiversal aspect and stuff. And I shifted the focus from one main character to it being on Alice. And now, honestly, I think it's a better story, and I still get to tell all the multiverse time traveling shenanigan stories that I wanted to tell for 20 years, and all the aliens and all the cool stuff. But
Yeah,
now I
absolutely.
also get to package it with a pretty girl on the front cover and stuff that helps bring in a little bit more attention than a white haired guy did. And, you know, and I'm excited
Yes.
to finally be getting to tell it.
Yeah, and it's cool because I was telling these guys, like with Jerry, for example, like I actually got to meet him and know him for a few years before he passed away. But he's part of that group that they were all in high school together, right?
Hmm.
And because they were working on this comic when I first met them, a lot of the people that I knew from the comic as I was meeting them in real life, it was a surreal experience because I'm like, hey, I've seen you on the printed page, you know. I mean, but
Hmm.
with Jerry, it's pretty cool because Jerry's actually going to be in two different comics. He's also going to be in that one that you worked on called How to Hunt a Hero. So there's a version of Jerry in there as well, and that's kind of like from our friend Roy's experience and like putting him in that comic as well. So it is pretty cool to see, you know, a lot of these people represented, and like Jesse said, they'll be there forever. And if somebody likes that particular character, you know, they can latch onto it. And obviously, from reading the dedication at the beginning of the book, they'll know that he was a real person.
Hmm.
But
That's
Yeah.
kind of
really
taking it back
cool.
to what you were saying at the beginning.
I see Joe said, exactly when some kid 40 years from now finds your book in a dusty trunk and is like, wow, that's a form of immortality. And yeah, that's very true. Um, there's a lot to say about that kind of stuff. What is it? The gods of tomorrow are the superhero characters of today kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and he also said, my measurement for success is when people actually discuss my characters and stories, when people long for the lore, when
Oh
the book
man.
makes an impact. And that's very true.
One thing that I did not expect that has been my favorite part about making comics so far has been like when I created the world of Green Zone, all of a sudden uh friends and stuff started writing stories. They got so inspired by the idea of the world that they started making up characters and making up stories that they wanted to see happen in it. And like when I made up the Mighty Call of the Cro-Magnon, all of a sudden friends started making fan art of it and started asking all kinds of really interesting questions and things and wanting to know more about the lore, and knowing that you inspired somebody else's imagination the way Star Wars and He-Man and Thundercats and stuff inspired my imagination as a kid. That's freaking amazing. Getting fan art from kids around the world of T-Man and Hyperstrike. Like this one kid made a little T-Man out of Play-Doh and let it harden and had a little bitty T-Man action figure. That's
That's cool.
freaking amazing. That is one of the coolest things that I never expected to happen.
The So again, just like with all the games that I've worked on, I try and express this to my artist friends. I'm like, you just don't you don't understand what it feels like to have cosplayer designs. It's like until you've experienced that, it's intoxicating. It's one of those, like, you can look and see, like, oh yeah, people are gonna be dressing as Master Chief or things like that. Those characters, those games, they're designed by committee, where it's like tons of people make these decisions. You know, it's not just one artist's vision.
Mhm.
But I was fortunate enough, like on the Blood Rain series, on Blood Rain 2 specifically, where I was the concept artist, the 3D modeler, everything. Like I took those characters from beginning all the way into animation, and those are like solely my designs. I had a little bit of feedback here and there, but those are basically my designs. So to this day, 17, almost 18 years later, in Russia and Eastern Europe, it's still really popular. I still get a new cosplayer. On average, a new cosplayer shows up about every 3 to 6 months, with doing my designs still, like just designs that I did back in 2002, 2003.
That's
And
awesome.
I still get new fan art. Like on fan art, I'll probably get like 4 to 5 pieces every year still. And that is intoxicating as a creator, because you're just like, yes, I've had people message me, and their whole online persona is based off Rain or Ephemera or some of these characters that I have, like their internet handles, their email addresses, their VK accounts. Everything is like named after characters that you created. And I've had people tell me like, oh, I used to play your games when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and it's like insane.
Mhm.
I was just at the Hill County Comic Con, and we brought over the Ghostbusters group, and one of the Ghostbusters guys was 18 years old, and so like my career is older than him. He could be my kid, but his first video game ever was Ghostbusters, the video game, which I made as well. I worked on that, and it was surreal. Like it's still there. People are still discovering it. Decades later, there's still going to be fans for that, but you can only experience that if you actually create a product.
Mhm.
And until they experience that, I think it's real easy to shy away from actually doing the work. But once you experience it, what it feels like, there's no other feeling like it. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we used to get fan art from Aaliyah when we had our store, and we still get it now. I just got a new piece this past week from a person who was from our old store, and they were a teenager when they first did those drawings for us, and then now they're a parent, and they just did a new fan art for us. So it's pretty cool. Just like Jesse said, you can't beat that feeling.
Mhm. It is really crazy cool. And
Yeah, I wish all creators can have an opportunity to kind of experience that.
mhm.
All right, Joe. What else are people saying, Mr. Moderator?
Well, Joeli has gotten his fair share of surprise fan art. I've seen a lot of the ones he's gotten. Some really good artists have contributed to. I gotta get used to calling it the Improbable Girl and the Wonder Kitty now, because you got me saying Mari Solinsky forever. But I do like the rebranding of his book, though.
Monica Lewinsky? What did you
No,
say?
oh gosh. See, now you know it was a good rebranding if that's where Jesse's mind went.
You said Monica
God,
Lewinsky.
talk about old. Who on this podcast is gonna know who Monica Lewinsky was?
Yeah, be sure to take your medication if you know who
You
Monica
might-
Lewinsky
yeah.
is. Don't forget.
You're following along on your old man bingo card at home. That was Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah, it just gets worse and worse as time goes by.
Today's winners are sponsored by Bran Flakes.
Yeah, you go. Close but no cigar. Exactly.
That's what yeah, because our friend Roy the other day, he sent me a thing. He was like, that said the movie The Crow is about to hit 30 years because it came out in 1994, and he's like, 30 years. I'm like, yes, dude. I'm like, for the rest of the 2020s, everything you loved in the 90s is going to hit its 30th anniversary. Everything you loved in the 80s is going to hit its 40th anniversary. So you better be ready. So,
Yep. I mean, like, we started doing Teen Strike 25 years ago, 27 years ago, something like that.
mhm.
Yeah, I think it's 27 years.
Once Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses hit the oldie station, I was like, okay, I'm done.
For me, it wasn't so much. For me, it first hit me when I heard Pearl Jam, but it didn't really hit me until I heard Blink 182, and I was like, wait, no. They're like, this is a flashback cafe. Here's Blink 182, and I was like, no, no, no. But I was like, oh, that's right. It's like 2012, and yeah, they usually go back 10 years.
Yep,
Mhm.
and like I have Blink 182 on my liked songs list, and it lumps it in with so many older things now, and all this stuff gets lumped into like oldies 2000s rock and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, I had
Well,
kids, and this is oldies.
well, like growing up in the 80s for us, like uh one of my friends was or still is a huge Beach Boys fan. We grew up, oh man, this is like old music, but it was closer to the 90s than we are to the 90s now. Like with some of the later Beach Boys stuff. I mean, if you're thinking about it, it's the 60s. Yeah, it's basically 30 years, which is 30 years now from the 90s.
Hmm.
Mhm. Oh yeah, Jolie brought up a running gag him and I have that he always waited for movies to come out when they played on Channel 10, which was our CBS, and that's like the thing now. It's like when it comes out, so you can watch it for free, basically. And then Katie says it was how old the original Toy Story movie is that got to her. Yeah, the original Toy Story
Yeah, and
movie,
I was
1995.
graduating college when that came out, and that was so huge for us, like because we just got out of college studying 3D design and stuff and animation, and then here they made a whole
Yep,
movie
1995.
out of it, and it was nuts.
Yeah, see, there's another one that's about to hit his 30th anniversary next year.
Yeah, for me, what made me want to go down the computer animation route was Jurassic Park. Seeing all the behind the scenes stuff, I knew it was going to be something to do like that, and so my big dream was like, oh, I'm going to go to Hollywood and work for Stan Winston and all that stuff.
Oh
Like that
yeah.
was my dream. But uh, I was I was at I was in the art institute. We were doing our 3D animation class, and this is man, animators today don't know how easy they have it, but we didn't. There was no such thing as an animation rig at the time. Well, what we were studying at least, and so everything had to be animated with forward kinematics, and so it's not easy. And so I have this one animation where we had to animate a character from going from a prone position into a standing up position, which can be very difficult if you don't have IK. And it starts off and it's okay, like it's student work, but you can see where I was putting effort into it. And then right when he starts shifting his weight and lifting himself off the ground, I just kind of like make my character just kind of go whoop, just stand up, because that's the moment where I realized, like, hey, I actually had more fun modeling this character than I am animating this character. I am not an animator. And so that was the moment where I said screw this, and I went and played Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy 7, and I'm gonna make characters like this because these are cutting edge characters. It's never gonna get any better than this.
Oh
Uh,
man, I remember when they had the fully 3D figures in Quake with the like cube hands and stuff, and I was like, this is the epitome of 3D graphics. This is so awesome because they got so good with the texture maps on the 3D
yep.
characters that you could put a really low resolution grainy picture of a fist on that cube, and when it moves, it was you could tell what it was supposed to be, and that's as good as it's ever going to get. Like that was amazing.
The late great
And
Paul Steed.
God, it was that was mind blowing for me. But
Yeah,
I
that's where I got my start, was through Quake 3 modding. Um, we formed a team and we provided downloadable player characters, and just did that long enough, built up some infamy around it. And then when there was a job opening, one of my friends was like, "Hey, you know what you're doing? We need a character artist. Come work for us." And that was it.
hmm one thing that I do regret about animation is I wish I had been able to stick at it long enough to get as good as I wanted to be at the animation, and make stuff really look natural and really capture that feeling of the shift of weight and stuff that they get with like motion capture rigs and stuff. Like, I knew where I wanted to get to, I just didn't have enough time practicing it to quite get there. And then, next thing you know, I had to make a living, and then I had kids and stuff, and there was no spending 6 months to learn a new piece of software again. And like, God, now the software is 80 generations away from the stuff I learned
Damn
in
those
college.
kids.
It is, I mean, it's like learning a whole new language now, because everything has just jumped so far, and it's easier to pay. It makes me sad, but it's easier to pay somebody to do a 3D model for me now than to do it myself. And I was really good at modeling, but like I said, I'm not finding a copy of True Space anymore to work off of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think when I knew it was time to go into directors and leadership and all that stuff was I think during a Star Wars, working on a Star Wars project, and I was like 6 weeks working on General Grievous, and I was like, I freaking hated that. I don't want to spend that long on a character. I mean, and I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan to begin with, but it's just
okay, that's the end of the show, folks. I'm glad I could have you all on. It's been great. I hope your Kickstarter does well.
He said, because
Yeah.
the cover's done, I'm stopping.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's halfway there. Sure they'll
Yeah.
fund it.
until you've worked with Lucas, you'll
Oh, I can
understand
imagine.
even more. Client work is already a pain in the ass, and now
Yeah.
imagine working for, like, I tried real hard never to work at a game studio that I actually enjoy their content, because you just never want to see how the hot dog's made or whatever that saying is.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with the way Subway does business. And there's nothing wrong with the way they make their food. I never want to eat at one again. Just after working there for so long, for so many long hours, I never want to eat a sub for the rest of my freaking life. And I used to really enjoy Subway. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. I would never eat the tuna again in a million years. Don't eat the tuna is the one thing I could suggest, but otherwise everything else is fine. But yeah, I never want to see another sub for the rest of my life because it was miserable working there.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely like one of those things. It's the same thing as never meet your heroes kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes you're going to be disappointed, and yeah, man, like the stories I have dealing with LucasArts and stuff are plentiful. I mean, hell, my Bill Murray stories are already crazy enough, and that has led me to
Yeah, I hear he's a handful.
yeah, and so it's just one of those, and so yeah, working on Grievous, it was insane. Like, it's just it's a how should I say it? It's a wonder how any Hollywood studio stays afloat. Like, it's so stupid. They're just some of the dumbest studios I've ever messed with. They don't have their crap together. They are extremely unorganized, and that they don't have to be. But when I'm like, hey, what does General Grievous look like from the back, and no one can give me reference from LucasArts, it's just like, okay, I guess I'll go buy a toy and use the toy as reference.
See, you
That's
actually
ridiculous.
The what?
You actually had a solution. Most people have just given up.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like, oh, here's the Clone Trooper reference like you'd wanted, and it's a 3D model with no lighting whatsoever, and they're solid white because clone troopers are white. And so when you don't have any lighting on them, they're just solid white. And I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. I'll go buy a toy, I guess.
That was part of their plan, was to get them to keep buying
Yeah.
toys.
Yeah, jeez. I had so
For
many
what we're
friends-
paying for his salary, we're gonna get another $20 out of him for that toy. Dang it.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. And that's just the high level stuff. Like, there's just so many stories dealing on that project that were kind of like a nightmare scenario for most artists. Still though, it was fun. I mean, it's not necessarily about the projects you work on, it's the people you work with. And a lot of young artists need to understand that too. They go into video games thinking they're going to change the world and all that. And it's like, look, man, like, don't ever idolize a studio. A studio will fire you in a heartbeat. Enjoy working with the people that you are working with. That's what's going to make the big difference.
Mm-hmm.
You could be working at a real crappy job, but you really enjoy the people you're working with, and it really makes every day fun.
Yeah, it'll make it survivable for sure. And those may turn up to be people that you work with for a long time, or be the guys that help get you that next job when
Exactly.
this one goes nuts and fires everybody, or
Yep.
whatever.
But no one listens to me.
No.
Everyone- and they get the big old surprise Pikachu face when they get laid off. I told you.
Mhm.
All right, Joe, what's next on the subjects? Gotta wake you up. I know it's getting late
I
for you.
think, yeah.
Yeah, we have gone a long time, but I'm having fun talking, and I'm having fun drawing. So
Yep.
I've just been keep going.
Yeah, I'm doing my shadow pass.
Joe's
right now.
listening in the comments. That's all we need. That's all we need. Kyron punked out on us a long time ago.
Mhm. Yeah, Michael left in the middle of the death conversation, so I hope it wasn't that. He was probably the youngest person in the chat too.
I'm not dying. Not me. Get out here before I catch it from you old dudes.
Yeah, it's like the end of that song that we used in our trailer. I'm not dying today. Oh dang, Katie's
Yeah,
a
it's,
trooper. She says after.
Oh yeah, and she's in Scotland, right, Katie? I believe. I mean, yeah, I believe so. It's all Fantasyland to me, None of it's. I just imagine, Katie wearing frilly dresses and going out into her garden in the backyard that she cuts with a scythe, by the way, and having tea parties with badgers with ties and stuff. Like that's what I think of when I imagine Katie's life.
And her easel to paint on is in the middle of the garden with the light shining down on it, and
Oh,
the
absolutely.
the paintbrushes are ready to go. No, the animals bring the paintbrushes to her. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Doing some kind of Gaelic song, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly what life is like for Katie. I'm sure. I've known her long enough now. I'm sure I can be the one to decide that that's what her life is like. I have that authority.
I don't know this
I
Katie
just love-
person, but I imagine that's a nice life.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say we'll focus on Fish's art for a while. I love how we can just hand you any character and you're just like, yeah, I've been drawing these guys for years. Here you go.
Well,
seriously,
the
like the first time you
costumes
did
are
them-
the costumes are well designed and stuff, so it's really easy for me to just take it and run with it and be like, oh, okay, I understand, the language that's going on in these shapes and stuff. I get what was going on in the design here. It all makes sense to me. Like sometimes I get characters And I'm just like, I have to keep looking back at the references for every line because I'm like, okay, that's just going in a weird direction. And why is that like that? And okay, this line goes to the left and then down and then right and then up and then left again. And oh, yeah. These are like, oh yeah, I get this. This is easy. This this
Yeah,
but it's
well,
also one of the things that I talk about when it comes to like looking for an artist to work on your book is finding somebody whose imagination like runs on the same creative track that yours does will make life so much easier than
mhm.
like say
Yeah.
trying to find the person that's the cheapest and then expecting them to draw like the person you wish you could have afforded to hire or whatever. Like
Yeah.
just get somebody that
Mhm.
does what you like already and it will go so much easier and so much faster. And I've got guys that like our imaginations might as well be, twin brothers separated at birth. And they give me an idea, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And if we did this, and if we did that, and he's like, oh, yeah. And then if we added this part, and oh, wait a minute, what if we turned it around? And then we end up with something so much cooler
Yep.
than either one of us would have gotten on our own. And that is so much fun. And then I've been on other projects where it's like, no, do it like this. I'm like, okay, like this. No, no, not that's too powerful and cool. No, no, I want his arms skinnier and he needs to be a little thicker in the midsection and maybe the double chin and I don't understand what is cool in their mind. Like if I can't wrap my brain around your idea of cool, I can't really give you the best thing I could possibly give you. And you know, usually those fall into the category of, I'm going to finish it. And after this, I'm probably going to be too busy to do your next job. Because, it's just like pulling teeth when your imaginations don't run on the same track.
Absolutely. Um, I love my artist. I found him randomly. I spammed all the Facebook groups and stuff and saying, I posted my 3D models and I was like, I need someone that can draw like this. This is the kind of like the art style I have laid out. These are teenagers. They're not like Superman and Batman physiques or anything like that. And then I spammed it out, and then I was just like, let me check out this group, and I just started scrolling down, and I saw this friend's work, and I was like, oh my god, this is it right here. And it's because he even had to tell me, he's like, are you sure you want me to do this book? He goes, I don't do superheroes. And I go, no, but you do romance, and that's what I want. Like, this is not necessarily a superhero book. Yeah, there's superheroics in there, but I need the characters to feel like they're best friends. I need the characters to feel like they're interacting. It's actually a story about many things, one of them being a first love, and I need those characters to have chemistry. Like, that's
Hmm.
what I want. You'll get the superheroics. Like, I'll work with you on that. I'll help you out with all that stuff. I go, but getting the nuances when it comes to characters interacting, like how he places the hands or a character puts an arm around another character, when I don't prompt that from him, he just understands the story and gets it.
Yeah.
That's invaluable. Like, that's like, I just couldn't have found a better artist.
Hmm. That's the stuff that I love is getting to add in all that cool stuff to it that just takes the story to a whole nother level and makes it that much richer. And sometimes it's such little things like, if I turn her looking the other way, then her expression is so much sadder all of a sudden.
Yep.
And, she's trying to hide her face from him so that he doesn't see it. And things like that. Or like in one story we did, um, basically the Superman character and the Wonder Woman character are having an argument back and forth about whether or not they should let the government have this machine they just captured, or whether they should use it to try and find this Superman's homeworld that he came from, that he's been lost from for years. And they're arguing basically, like one of them is saying we need to listen to the government, and the other one's like, but this is my only way home. I think we should just do it and ask for forgiveness later. And then, essentially the Batman stand-in character walks in and says, no, of course we're going to do it. It's not a question, because who would the government call to deal with this kind of stuff anyway? If there was a problem, if it did open a rift and let a monster in, who would they call to fix it? They would call us. So yeah, we're absolutely going to do it. And at first I was like, he's angry and he's, yelling at them like, of course we're going to. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I totally changed it, and I just sketched it out, because it's faster for me to just sketch it out and show it to the client than to try and explain what I'm thinking about most of the time. And I just sketched out the scene and showed it to him, and the dude just walks in nonchalantly, like checking checking the levels on the computers and whatnot, doing routine maintenance, never even stops his stride to look at them, doesn't break his concentration. He just walks in nonchalantly in the middle of the conversation. Is like, oh no, we're absolutely doing this. Like, it's not even a big enough deal to him to stop what he's doing and turn around, because to him, there's no question. Yeah, we're absolutely doing this. You need to get home, and that's what we're doing. And I loved being able to add that part in, and it just made that scene way more interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know with Fran, it took a little bit for him to fully understand me, but just kind of like the way we started this whole podcast, where you're like, I was like, yeah, man, just do what you do. Like, that's why I'm giving you money. Why would I want to pay you and then use you as a tool, right? But with Fran, he's like, hey, I have some suggestions. Can I make some suggestions about how I think the framing should be? And I was like, yeah, go for it, and like change whatever the fuck you want. Like, you have the script, you're the storyteller, you're the visual storyteller in this project. I'm the one that is the word, the whatever you call it, like me, the guy who could barely speak English right now, the wordsmith, I guess, is what I was looking for. That's what I'm doing. I'm like, I hired you for a reason, and it's to help me visualize my words into visual. So if you think something needs to be drawn differently than I storyboarded it, by all means, better than me, do it. And so he's like, cool. And so I've been giving him all those opportunities to go in here and edit my story. Sometimes I'll push back. I'll be like, this is real important here, I need to show this or whatever. But for the most part, he's usually right. And I'm like, yeah,
that's the thing. I will show it to you, knowing full well I might have to go back and change that panel, but that's not the end of the world. It's quicker for me to show you than to try and write it out and explain what I'm thinking and why it would be powerful to do it that way. It's just easier for me to do it and show it to you. And if you like it, great, we'll go with it. If not, a simple, let's keep it the way it was in the script. Cool, no problem. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt about it. The thing I hate, and part of it is being on the autism spectrum and stuff. I hate it when I'm working with a client that is so concerned about hurting my feelings that they're going to cover their revisions or whatever in so much neurotypical nicety nonsense that's not necessary. And they're like, oh man, it's so awesome, it's so cool, it couldn't be any better, I'm so happy with the way it turned out. Okay, great. I just, if you could change this one thing, but it's awesome, it's so cool the way it is, but if you could change this. And I'm stuck trying to decipher through all the nonsense you said to try and figure out, okay, what do you really want changed? And they're so worried about hurting my feelings, and I'm like, dude, as long as you don't cuss my mama or something, you're not going to hurt my feelings. As long as you leave my wife and my kids out of it, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm doing a job for you. Tell me what you want.
Yeah.
And that is something that I try and work with new clients on and explain to them. I'm like, just tell me. If you want a revision, tell me what it is. Just give me real specific instructions. Because, just make it 10% more awesome doesn't tell me crap. I have no idea what to do with that. I gave you what I thought was awesome.
I know
You
that's
know,
very specific. It is specifically 10% more awesome. So I think you should know exactly what to do there.
yeah, it's clear to me. Why isn't it clear to you?
Yeah.
I don't know what your idea of awesome is, because what I gave you was awesome to me.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
you
make
know,
it 10% more awesome.
oh, see, I didn't get. Okay, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Just more of that, except not that way. Oh yeah. It
we need
frustrates.
more flair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, it's fun. Like I love, being an art director. I downloaded this papercraft 20-sided die that is basically, it's called the Pocket Art Director. And what you do is you just when you're going to give feedback to your artist, you just throw it on their desk, and it has like a thing, and it's like one of them is make it 10% more awesome, and the other one's like yeah, make it more awesome. It's just a whole bunch of vague man. Now that I'm trying to remember it, I can't remember all of them, but 10% more awesome is there too.
That's absolutely right, Joe.
Make it cooler, make it more cool.
Mm-hmm.
To tell you, man, it saved me a lot of time. Instead of writing detailed feedback, I just throw that on their desk and be like, there you go. All right, Joe, do we have any comments?
yeah, he just read it.
Yeah,
Was
Joe was in
Sorry.
the comments saying that basically that fixing that issue comes with building a relationship, and that clients need to be
Yeah.
comfortable and not afraid to express themselves, which is absolutely true. And some of that is just a individual person thing. Like, I've worked with some guys that are just so afraid of confrontation for whatever reason that, they can't give you a straight answer about what they need. And for someone on the spectrum like me, that can get pretty frustrating. And if you're super worried about upsetting everybody, then sometimes, because I'm autistic, all of this is a mask. All of this is a facade I learned to put on a long time ago that makes it easier to deal with people. The whole, hey, it's your Uncle Fish, I'm glad to see you. Totally an act I picked up from like watching TV characters. It's like 80% MacGyver and, different people that I scrambled together and made a character out of. That makes life easier. When I get frustrated, or when I'm really focusing or something, or I'm really trying to understand, that drops. And I can seem mad when I'm not. I'm just direct. I'm just like, but I need you to tell me what needs to be different. Like, one time a client sent me instructions to, he wanted this character who was based on somebody that they knew in real life. He wanted her to be, be heavy and curvy, but still beautiful. So I drew, a big, beautiful lady, and thought she looked great. And I sent it to him. And he's like, whoa, I wanted her to be, I wanted her to be heavy, but I didn't want her to be fat. I wanted her to still be pretty. And I was like,
Jesus.
I thought she was a fox. I mean, like, I thought she was the hottest chick I'd put in the book. But, I was like, he's like, no, I need her. I still need her to be heavy, but I need her to be prettier than that. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. Like, if you want me to trim her thighs down, or, take off the double chin, like, I need specific instructions. Whoa, bro, why you mad? I'm like, I'm not mad. I don't know what you're asking for. I thought I gave you what you asked for, but clearly I didn't hit it. So just tell me exactly what it is I need to do to give you. And, and if somebody has an issue with confrontation, for instance, that was a tough interaction. And I'm just like, I just need instructions, man.
I personally love when you turn on the Uncle Fish voice. I guess that's what we'll call it. When I'm scrolling through TikTok and you start, and I pass you, and you're like, hey, it's your Uncle Fish. And I'm like, oh, he's talking. Stop. It worked.
Yeah, it comes off sounding a little shysterish sometimes, but that's just like, I literally built a personality off of people I saw on TV. So, it can come off sounding a little, car salesman-y sometimes, but You know,
Yeah,
it's
but
done
that's
me
what I
pretty
love
good
about
over the years. You know,
it.
which is a funny thing. I never expected, civilization as a whole to turn to basically being on TV all the time, and everybody is now podcasting and streaming, and everybody is, on TikTok, and everybody's got their own little TV station in their hand to stream out their own channel of whatever. And turns out having built your personality off people on TV came in kind of handy and made that way easier than it would have been for the incredibly shy fish that was absolutely terrified to go up and, talk to somebody as a kid and be like, "Hi, my name's Fish. You want to play with me?" And Fish is a stupid name. And, it just goes downhill from there. But now I'm all like, "Hey, how's it going? It's Yuck and Fish. Good to see you." And works like a charm.
Yeah, I suffer from social anxiety, and I gotta turn that. I gotta turn that other personality on like quite often when I'm like doing business work and I travel overseas and talk to vendors and stuff at conferences and conventions, or when I'm fundraising and things like that. And it's just like, I don't know where that comes out. It's almost like one of those blacking out kind of moments, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, and you check your emails and you got some business deals done, and you're just like, I don't know how I did that, but I did it somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was terrified the first time I went to a con, and like the thought of just like hollering at people walking by because nobody was stopping at our little artist alley table that I was sharing, with another nobody had ever heard of. And so getting anybody to stop at all became, basically turning into a carnival barker. And I realized eventually, I was like, you know what, this is kind of fun. And I made a whole game out of it for myself. And now it's one of the parts that I actually really enjoy. But it absolutely terrified me. Like, I didn't sleep for a couple of days going up to that con just for the thought of having to talk to all those strange people. And now it's a fun game to try and figure out, like, okay, what can I do to get a laugh out of them that will make them stop for a second? Like, I tend to do caricatures when I'm at shows because it's usually where I make most of my money. And even if I sell out of books, I usually still make more money doing caricatures. And so I will do stuff like, when I see a guy walking with his girlfriend, I'm like, "Hey, sir, did you know it has been scientifically proven that you're 30% more likely to get lucky tonight if you buy your girlfriend a caricature of her as her favorite superhero?" And then they laugh, and then they come over and they're asking, I really do caricatures. And I was like, "Yes, sir, I do." And then I, show them the comics, and I start pitching while, I'm drawing the picture of his girlfriend. And, it's just become a fun thing, and trying to figure out, okay, what can I crack a joke on and not hurt somebody's feelings, but,
Yeah, that's and
engage
it's actually pretty surprising.
like-
But after COVID, that statistic actually went up. I think it's actually closer to 40% now.
Well, see, I'm working off old numbers, true.
Yeah, so it is about 40% the last time I checked.
So Mike is asking, we're talking about persona, if he is who he appears to be, is he him all the time, or is he some sort of masked man? He reminds me that I recommended he wear his mariachi traje to a convention because he hasn't done conventions yet. And yeah, he is authentically him. And if you were to see him do a performance, because he's part of a mariachi group on the weekends, I'm like, just take that to the convention, like make that your thing. And he's not even acting, he's just doing his normal performance. And I mean, heck, I spent 2 semesters college carpooling with him, and it was a adventurous time every morning, every lunchtime, and every day I'm on the way home. Like, we have so many stories that we could tell that it's just like nonsense, but we just had ourselves cracking up. And then
If you have a mariachi outfit, you should absolutely wear that, man. White people love mariachis, and they would absolutely come up to you and be like, "Oh, can you do this? Can you do that?" And then they'll give you money at some point, I'm sure. Can I wear your hat?
Now, he says, remember the quote, how were you supposed to know she was a nun? I vaguely remember that story.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, no, not Jesus, a nun. Pay attention. And
I'll be.
Shut up, folks. Where is my drum set when I need it?
Are you supposed to tell the story, Joe?
No, but the funny thing is we have levels of remembrance. Like Joely can remember just about every single thing that has happened in his history. I'm right behind him and I can remember a lot, but sometimes there's gaps that I have to turn to him to fill because he's older than me. But yeah, this one we're gonna have to talk about off air because I don't remember all the details and I don't know if it's appropriate.
Or he does, and he wants it to be talked about off air.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's okay. Yeah, we can talk about this later, Joe. It doesn't sound like a story for the podcast. Tell me this nun story later.
Yeah. I don't want to derail the podcast, Joely. He's bringing up funny boy at the soda fountain. That almost sounds like a comic right there. Feature comic anthology for sure.
Oh yeah, no, it goes right into my Grindhouse collection that I want to do. I do have a nunsploitation story I want to tell at some point.
That's a word I didn't expect to hear tonight.
That's what it's called.
Oh, you keep him on long enough, you'll hear all kinds of things.
Yeah, you're just lucky I'm distracted by making art right now. But yeah, no, definitely, because that was one of the 3D models that I was working on right before I got a job in the industry. I was working on an unsploitation character. At the time, back then, Shotgun Mary wasn't necessarily a thing, but I was making a character called Shotgun Mary that was going to run around Unreal, and you're gonna be able to play as her and stuff like that. Still want to kind of bring that character back in some form or fashion. Need to change the name, obviously, because that's already something that exists. Can't pull a Blue Sonia with that, as everything that happened with that last night. That was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if Fish kept up with that.
No.
Yeah, it's just Ben and all them over at Antarctic Press, they're working on a parody book called Blue Sonia, and they got a cease and desist order from Dynamite. And it's like, well, yeah, that's what happens. You run the risk of that whenever you do parody. Like, even for my Raven Man story, like, I had to really Google and make sure that no one has a Raven Man like this, because you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
And that came back, and it's like, yeah, well, it happens.
Yeah, that's always something to look out for.
Bye, Katie.
Thanks man, Katie's pulling out on us.
Yeah,
Mr. Badger's tired, and the lights are keeping him on, so you got to turn it off so everybody in the garden can go to sleep.
You know what, Joe? I'm pretty proud of myself. I don't think I've said a single cuss word this entire podcast.
No, you have.
I mean, if damn.
Damn.
No, I was gonna say, now you have toned it down a lot. One time he did a virtual presentation to my wife's students, and it was so funny that he afterwards he was like, "God, I've never not cussed for such a long period of time." It was almost like holding his breath underwater for so long. He just let out a.
Yeah, I was.
Did you say you went out to your? Did you say you went out to your balcony and just
the storm,
literally pretending? Yeah, just yelling, doing the scene from Coming to America.
Well. In my mind, I haven't cussed, so I'm pretty proud of myself.
Uh-huh.
That's all that really matters, is what's going on in your mind.
Yeah,
in my
I'm the main
imaginary neighborhood.
I'm the main character of my story, so
It's your
I mean,
world.
you are.
That doesn't
I
have
have
to be
I have the
profanity
book.
if
I
you
have
don't
the
want
book
it
to
to.
prove. I have the book to prove what he just said.
yeah.
I also have, well, wait. I didn't get a trading card. I'm upset now.
Oh yeah.
Maybe in your world, that's the way you say hello. Maybe it's a greeting.
Oh yeah, you should. Yeah, I have something. Yeah, for saying hello. I have a interesting amount of experience with things, and yeah, maybe it is the way I say hello. Yeah, you're right. I like that. I'm gonna use that.
Maybe it's a happy little greeting among friends. Maybe you tell them to get the hell off my lawn.
I got
It's
my
okay.
Alex Ross.
Your
I got my
world.
Alex Ross shirt on. It's my happy little tree. Man, I feel like this is a race to see who's gonna finish.
Oh, you didn't know it is? Oh yeah, it's absolutely a race.
Oh shit. Okay. I said it.
sorry.
I said one bad word.
Yeah.
That's 3.
I was about to say, Jesse, I'm sorry, but I can't back you on I can't bet against Fish on a race when speed is involved. It's literally in his tagline.
I didn't
the
give
same
myself that. People have started saying that I did. I didn't. Actually, Morgan Iverson called me that once on a podcast, and I just took it and ran with it. But yeah, it's one of the things that's been fun and frustrating about coming to work in indie comics is my speed can be a great thing and it can be a hindrance sometimes, because sometimes it really kind of freaks people out, because when you're used to getting a page a week from somebody and suddenly I'm sending you 6-7 pencil pages a day, they're like, whoa, I can't check all this that quick. And I'm like,
I don't know if I could work with someone that does 1 page a week. Like that's insane.
oh yeah, I wouldn't know how to do it, but
Yeah, this is a yearly book,
yeah. And for a lot of people, a lot of indie comics guys are doing a book a year, or maybe 2. And so, having 2 different artists work on 2 different books that are taking that kind of time isn't a big deal. But like for me, this is how I, pay my rent. So
absolutely.
like I got to get stuff done, and which is another thing that occasionally runs me into problems when somebody is expecting this to be like when they hire somebody on Fiverr that does it as a hobby, and they think they can just like, I have all the time in the world to make all the revisions they might think of down the road while they figure out what they want to do. And I'm like, no, this is a job. Like I got to get this done. I've got other clients waiting.
Yep.
Like you may have the rest of the year to piddle on this book. I don't. And so like we need to get this taken care of. And a couple of times I've had to like really put my foot down and be like, look, my prices are based on how quickly I work. And if you want to take more time on it, that's okay, but that's a different price. That is like figuring out a weekly pay rate, and you can pay my paycheck for the week and take all the time you want, and I will change their goggles 15 times if you want me to. Good. Or you can decide how you want them to, what change you want me to make, and I'll make them, and we can be done and go on to the next page.
Yep.
But that's not what I build for.
It's all about like learning and having that experience for being a commercial production artist. Like making games is the same thing. Like you can't dick around forever. You never get anything done. Yeah. So a lot of like my speed and stuff comes from being doing concept work and all that stuff, where it's just like, I got to get all these concepts done. I got to get all these iterations done. We got to have like several versions of this character done by the end of the day or whatever, and you just got to do it. You got to learn how to do paper doll style concepts where you can just go in there and drop different variations in there.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I've learned a whole streamlining process for the way I work that makes it quicker and easier for me and lets things go fast. And like hiring a flatter was a big speed up for me because I thought it was ridiculous. I was like, who's going to pay somebody to do something that I could do so easily myself and save the money? And then I got in a bind and had to hire a flatter. And oh my God, she sped me up so much. That's how I got Green Zone done, the first issue. I
Nice.
had a book scheduled for like a month and a half to do, and I hired a flatter on a little job before that. She sped me up so much. I hired her for this book, and the book that was supposed to take me a month and a half, I got done in 12 days. And now I have a month free that I'm paid for already. The book's done, and I don't know what to do with that month. Do I just jump to the next book?
Vacation time.
I don't know. I don't understand that word. I don't speak Spanish. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So my wife was like, well, you need to work on one of your own books. So I knocked Green Zone out in that time. And then, Hannah just sped me up so fast that now I do all my pencils and I can get them done so much faster. I used to do like a page straight through. I would pencil it, letter it, ink it, color it, and then move on to the next page. And, wait for the client to approve each one, which sometimes would take way longer than just inking it would have took, waiting for those approvals. Now I can just burn through all the pencils in the book, and some books I can pencil the whole thing in, a couple of days sometimes if it's characters I know and it's not all 3-point perspective shots and stuff. And I can burn through those pencils. You can check them when you have time. Like, you don't have to stop in the middle of work and okay it so I can move on to the next step. I got way more pages to be doing. You get to approve them when you get off work and you have time to look at them. I'm working all day and not stuck looking for another job to fill my time while I'm waiting to hear back from you. And then I can move on to the inks. I can burn through those inks quickly. I send them to my flatter. The next morning I wake up to pages ready to color, and Bob's your uncle. The book's done and out. And then I go on to work on one of my own books.
Yep. That's awesome. That's yeah, I love that. That sounds amazing.
All right. Well, there we go. We got the inks done on this anyway. I may tweak a few things here or there when I get into doing the colors, but I believe we've got everybody now. We've got the Electro Wing dude, the stretchy dude, the animal chick, the tentacle ghost guy, the big dude, the speedster. I love speedsters. I didn't like speedsters until I started working on them on other people's books, and now I really love them. I really enjoy them now.
Yeah, that's Fran, one of Fran's favorite characters, because he draws them like doing all these bouncy like poses and stuff, because that character is very aloof, very very silly, and so he just has a ton of fun drawing him. I love the personality that he gave him.
See, now that is one thing I like about working in reverse, is little things that I mess up on and the pencils jump out at me when I reverse it and ink it. And, little things that your mind just kind of oversees and is like, oh, no, that's a face. Yeah, that makes sense. But then you flip it and all of a sudden it really stands out. And it's like, whoa, that's crooked.
Yeah,
and then when I come back to the inks, I'm like, okay, yeah, that got a little skewed. I need to fix that.
Yeah, you start questioning whether you're actually an artist. Do I have any artistic talent? When you see all your stuff.
I just remind myself, it's the same part of the brain that makes us see a face in a plate of bacon and eggs, or makes us, see a face in the back of an old Cadillac. Like, it's that same part. It's designed to recognize faces.
Specifically a Cadillac?
Well, whatever car. I'm just thinking of some as a kid. I loved the angry look with the wings and the whole 9 yards. Like, they look like aliens to me. But anyway, we have been on for nearly 3 hours, which is a long time for School of Fish. It has been a lot of fun talking with you guys tonight. It has been a lot of fun having everybody in the comments. I may have to start doing my show a little bit later because we got a lot of good engagement on a little bit later hour than I normally do. It has been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you guys for coming on. I can't wait to finish this. I will be posting the time lapse video and everything when it gets finished, and I will share that with you guys so you guys can share it and post it and do whatever you want with it. And
Absolutely.
Hopefully, I will have this wrapped up in the next day or two. I have a couple Amigo figures I need to correct, and then I'm free to go on to something else.
I think, well, and not that I think, I know one of the reasons that I told Joe I really wanted, that I liked about you when I saw when you did Joe's covers was you genuinely seemed like excited about your own artwork and the work that you did for Joe's cover, because I saw you posting videos and stuff about its creation and things like that. And I'm like, fantastic. You know, that's the kind of artist I want to work with, because you know,
and it doesn't take that much. Like, it doesn't take that much effort to share a post, to make a post. But like, I get more social media posts out of getting to post this cover. That's something else I can do without having to create a new piece of artwork just for that. And it helps you out. It gets more attention on your book. Why would you not? Like, I mean, I get if you're super, super, super busy. Like, I hired Drew Moss, who's working on Thundercats now, to do some variant covers for me. And like, at the time of the Kickstarter for those books, like, he was grinding away on gargoyles. So like, I get he doesn't have a whole lot of spare time to be making social media posts about my little comic book. Wasn't terribly hung up about it, but for the most part, it doesn't take much effort. And one of the publishers I've worked with before recommended to me, and I've started trying to do, of like making posts that are all ready to go for somebody, and like, hey, would you mind sharing this image out on Instagram? And like, they don't even have to do anything. They don't have to edit anything. They could just share it and, you know, tag a link in it, and boom, you're done. And that was pretty cool. I really liked that, because he sent me some really cool images for me to share out. And I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And I don't have to fool with voiceovers or anything. I can just, boom, here you go, share it. Yeah, that was great. I loved it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, and I also have a bone to pick with you, by the way.
Oh boy.
So apparently you gave Joe recommendations for some comic book shelves. Oh
oh my gosh, I can't believe you
Did I
give Fish a hard time.
What are they? They're made out of that balsa wood.
It's that shelves you got from Amazon that you
those
you started
laser
using
cut
them last
ones?
year.
They
The-
stink, man. They stink so bad. I was
like
like,
smell
I was
bad
like,
or difficult to put together?
no, they smell bad.
The laser cut stuff does have an aroma. I will give you that.
Well,
It does.
it smells like Elmer's glue, right? Like, because it's got a laminate on top of it. So they must have stuck it on there with some kind of glue. And I was like, Joe, these, because I got them, I put them together, and the entire time I was like, what is that smell? And it was just kind of like, stinks in here. And I was putting it together.
For me, it's the burnt smell. Like, I noticed the burnt smell for a while, but like, I have them in my office. I haven't smelled them in a long time. But
And so I drove them down to Austin.
It must go away. The time they came into my house, I was gone.
Yeah, like I drove them down to Austin, so they were in my car, and that's when I realized it was the shelves. I'm like, no, it's these shelves. They freaking smell. And then I got there, and I was like, oh my God, Joe, this guy recommended the stinkiest shelves I've ever had in my life. That my car stinks now.
oh, I'm sorry.
I had to drive them to Houston, and then when I drove them back to Austin, I left them at our friend Roy's house, and you know, he was all laughing and stuff. And then as I'm driving back up to Dallas, he messages me and he's like, "Dude, I had to put them in the garage. They smelled so bad." And then he said, "No, I had to put them outside because they were stinking up my garage." And
Okay,
so
that's worse than what I smelled. I'm wondering if there wasn't something happened to those.
No, something's going on, because by the time it got to me, it was fine, and I have a very acute sense of smell because my wife makes fun of me for that. I can literally smell
fine.
myself.
Off the charts.
Yeah.
They're fine now.
Yeah.
Like they're in my car right now. They're fine. They don't smell anymore. They're properly aired out. But I was like, Joe, I don't know. This guy does he like you? Like, he did something.
I just posted a video and people asked me where I got them from, and I shared it. But yeah, I learned a while back getting laser cut pieces to build like terrain for role playing games and stuff. Like, oh, that stuff stinks when it comes out of the box because you can smell that burnt wood that's been trapped in there in the packaging.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that was also what I was smelling. But it was a combination of all that, and geez, that was like oh man, like I had to get that off my chest because I was just like, oh man, I finally got him. I finally got him here. I could finally just let him know. Like,
I thought you were going to be more mad about how finicky they are to put together. Like,
oh
I glued mine together because I was so ticked off when I finally got them put together. I was like, no, I got the hot glue gun out and I welded those things together into one big piece.
Well, the big thing is they've been in my car. I haven't taken them down since the show last weekend, but being in my car for so long, the micro vibrations have pretty much broken them. That I've tried putting them back together, and there's parts that are. So I just buckled down and I just ordered the metal folding ones. And I thought about it, and I'm like, man, 2 metal folding ones for like $100. I'm like, it's a lot of money. But then these wood ones, it was like $40 each anyways. I was like, what's $20 more? And so screw it.
And those metal ones, I mean, as long as you like don't run over them with a car or something, are going to last you a long time.
Yeah.
And
so I'll just give them to Joe when
I'm honestly looking at probably upgrading to the metal ones just so I can get more books on there, because like right now I just finished my 12th book, and by the end of May the 13th is going to be done, and like that's going to fill that thing up. And then what do? I need more room. So
yeah. And Joe, I'm gonna experiment with a table runner instead of like the tablecloth that you have, because I was looking at it and I'm like, this is actually more fun because you can put whatever tablecloth you want underneath it. So on Halloween time, put a spooky tablecloth, and then you got your Child's Play runner on top of that.
I love the runners.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take a look at how that goes. But if it goes well, I'm gonna print you out a new runner. With the Child's Play Comics logo, with all the QR code and the website and everything, but print that out like in a nice white, and then like have a red tablecloth underneath. I think will look really sharp. That or a white tablecloth with a red runner would look really cool too. That could help you stand out at the conventions, because everyone has black at the conventions. So I'm trying to think about.
It gets dirty.
Yeah, it gets dirty with white for sure. But that's why I was thinking red, like a real nice bold crimson red with a white runner.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
it's not a bad idea at all, because that would stand out for sure.
And so mine right now is black because it's me. But I'm gonna experiment with doing like a blue or something underneath it. I gotta look for colors to see how they look. But the other thing that I'm experimenting with is I found a place on Amazon that just does the cardboard cutouts. And so I'm getting 4 foot tall, 2 4 foot tall cardboard cutouts of Jesse and Trisha, so I could put them on either side of the booth, and I think that'll just add a little bit more.
I am dying to do, because in my book Green Zone, like Virgil's an 8 foot tall lizard monster.
Yeah.
And I really want to do an 8 foot tall like standee of him, but I want to make it out of like maybe 3 inches of foam, so I can like give it a bit of a bas relief carving to it. So he's a little bit 3-dimensional, but still make him so he could fold down and fit in the van.
That's awesome.
That's such an undertaking. Like, that's going to be a month of my life carving and painting that thing. And I just haven't been able to afford to spend a month working on that. But my daughter is a cosplayer, and actually Bellamy is based on her because she's little and skinny. And I'm like, if I could dress her up as Bellamy and send her around the con handing out cards like, hey, have you seen my partner? Like, if you see him and take a picture with him and tag Mr. Fish Comics in it, then you can spin for a free prize and like get people coming to take pictures with this giant standee. And, that would be awesome. But
yeah, I was going to say, like, it could be a month of your time, or you have children, and children are great for free labor. So it's one of those where you just have them do it. It's a fun activity with dad. Let's get this done.
My kids are talented, but they're they're not me talented yet.
Oh, yeah.
I would. That's one thing. If I'm going to put the time and money into it, I want to do it right. I don't want it to be, wow, you
Well,
did a good job.
that's why you offer a summer camp for kids. And it's like, hey, we're gonna learn woodcrafting, and all the kids are like, yay! And then you're just like, no, hey, you're missing the line. Get closer to the line. No, throw that away. Start over. You know. And
I'm
then you
actually
just-
getting to do a summer camp Comic Con thing at a summer camp with one of the schools in Little Rock this summer.
Yeah.
And I'm getting paid to come out, and like with the little kids, we're just going to do fun exercises, and we're going to draw, and I'm going to like yell out random animals, and I'll make them an alien, and somebody gets to take the picture home. But for the older kids, we're going to work on making some comic pages, and then at the end, they're going to get a mini comic with all the little pages in it, and maybe a little short story from me. And then like
That's
the
awesome.
last day, I get to sell books and stuff, and so it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I've seriously thought about looking to the local colleges, because we have like 3 in town, about
Yeah.
doing internships and actually showing some of the people like what it's like to live as a freelance artist, how we do some of this stuff. And when I worked with Freestyle Comics publishing the first 3 issues of Green Zone, they do interns from like the Cincinnati School of Design or something, and he does such a good job of really showing them how it works to make a comic and to kickstart one and the whole process, and lets them help build the Kickstarters and lets them like do real work and learn from it, lets them sit in on all the business meetings and stuff so they can learn how this stuff goes.
Oh, yeah.
And what it's like working with clients and customers, and a lot of those kids have gone on to like go kickstart their own books and stuff because they learned everything about how to do it from that internship. And it wasn't just making coffee and making copies. Like they were really learning how to do stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I
that
believe
made it exciting to me that, oh, I could give back and maybe find some people like Mike has the interns, which is like, 3 kids that were interns, I don't know, probably 5-6 years ago, that are permanent employees now for him. And because they did their job well, and they go to cons with him and help set up and sell books and things, and they're indispensable from the publishing company now. And
That's awesome.
it's a great way to find people that are good at what we do and be like, you know what, you're a good colorist, come over here, I got a job for you. Save me some time. I can start knocking out 2 books a month if I had $2 in an anchor, man. I'd be set.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Like my friends and I at GDC were talking about. He was talking about wanting more kids, and I'm like, yeah, man. Like, you can. He's like, I just don't want to have to go through like the whole birthing process again and all that. And I was just like, well, I mean, you can adopt, right? And he's like, I don't know if I really want to adopt. I go, yeah, you go to the adoption stores or whatever, and you give them art. Yeah, you give them art tests. I'm like, you give them art tests and you find the best artists. I go, and that way you can start training them to be, because he's an art director as well. Like, you start training them in the Marvel way, and then you'll eventually be able to have your own VFX studio.
I am uniquely certified for this conversation because most of my kids are adopted.
Yeah.
My one biological kid is naturally as good an artist as I am, though most of that is hard work over his entire life because he's worked really hard at it because he hyper focused on it like I did. The others are all pretty talented artists too, and there's some random Filipino kids that I adopted that came through when I was a foster parent, but they're my boys and they're great, and they grew up around me. They grew up around me drawing and painting and sculpting all the time. And I taught them how to do what I knew how to do. Like, they got in trouble in Cub Scouts for not painting their own cars because their cars came out looking so good. And no, the fact is, I know how to paint really well. So I taught my kids how to do it. And they're out there sanding and repainting and sanding and repainting and get the steel wool and like 3 coats of clear. And like, they came out looking cherry. And they did it. The only thing I did was hold the car on a wire while they worked the paint can with the little sprayer attachment that I got them. And like, I held it up, but that was it. I cut out the mask for one of them. The other mask, my son cut out. and because he was a little bit older, and they did everything. They designed the cars, and they're like, kids didn't design this. I was like, well, we talked about different designs, and I was like, we talked about cool designs. Like one of my kids made his car look like chocolate covered Long John and had a clown driving it because he wanted to do that. The other, and it looked like a chocolate Long John so freaking good that like 5 different times I walked in the house, saw it on the kitchen table, and then got mad when I realized it was made of pine. It looked really freaking good. The other two, like they came up with lots of weird designs, but ultimately they wanted to try and win more than they wanted to make a cool looking car. So they went with designs we had seen in a book that my dad got us, and still lost, but they came in a lot closer. But you know, the cars absolutely looked like they were done by an adult. But I had been teaching my kids how to use power tools for like 3 years at this point, you know,
Yeah.
like what was age appropriate, helping me and then teaching them how to use it. And like that year we were homeschooling. So like part of our day was practicing tool safety. And like I would hold a ruler down on the table, and they would move a piece of paper through it like it was a bandsaw. And when they would make a bad move, I'm like, oh, okay, wait. Now see what you did right there? If the wood slips or something, you just stuck your thumb in the bandsaw and you've lost your thumb forever. So, you know, what we need to do is hold it over here. And we practiced for weeks before I let them use the bandsaw.
Yeah.
And, you know,
That's
they
awesome.
did great.
Yeah, that sounds like a almost, yeah, like basically a dream come true. That's so much fun. I love teaching kids like how to do art and stuff
Oh,
like that.
man. There's so
It's
much stuff I've learned how to do. And like, it's so much fun to share that. Like when they were in Cub Scouts, we got to make all these crazy things for the blue and gold banquets. And we made a gigantic Chinese dragon puppet that they got to walk through and then put over the table. And
yeah,
we made this giant tiki head for the Hawaiian theme one time, and made actual scale models of the Hawaiian Islands going down the table as centerpieces. And it was so much fun. And like I know how to do all this weird stuff from years working in signs and t-shirts and different
yeah.
things. And I've sculpted giant chili dogs for outside of buildings, and I made like 49 fiberglass polar bears for Dixie Cafe back in the day, and like all kinds of
Very
weird stuff.
very specific number.
Yeah. And so like I know a lot of weird stuff, and it's fun to get to pass that down and be like, oh, you know what? We could paper mache that real quick, and we could take some insulation foam, which is fairly cheap, and you know.
Yeah, my dad did a lot of woodworking, so that's where I got a lot of the whole like working with my hands kind of thing, and he taught me a lot about art when I was really young, and I know how valuable that could be. Like, um, that's cool. I like hearing stories like that. Like even all jokes aside, like good on you for adopting. I always my wife and I always said that if we ever get around to a point where we want kids, absolutely, I want to adopt. I don't care about having my own kids necessarily. I think it's just really important to try and bring families to those that need it.
There are
And
so many kids that need a home, and it really frustrates me. It really frustrates me when people go overseas to adopt, when
yeah,
there are thousands of kids in your county that need to be
yep,
adopted, but ew, no, I don't want to adopt those because they're the wrong color or whatever. Or like
yeah,
I would rather go to Russia and adopt a kid that somebody will think is my kid. Or at least if I'm going to adopt something else, I want to adopt a Chinese kid because, that's higher end.
yeah,
That's a higher end knockoff. It makes me
yeah,
so freaking mad when there's so many amazing kids that need a home here, and
absolutely.
they're freaking awesome. And we had like 75 kids come through our house as foster parents in like 3 years. And it's amazing, and it's hard, and it's not for the faint hearted, but it's also one of the most amazing things we ever did, and I can't wait to go back to it someday.
Yeah, I can't
And
imagine that. It's got to be really rewarding too.
mhm.
You know, you wouldn't be doing it for as long as you have. But just like I was mentioning early on, to kind of bring it full circle about like legacy and all that stuff, you're gonna have a lot of kids that you've have come through past you and stuff like that will have stories to tell, and
Oh yeah.
be a lot of people to remember you by, and that's really awesome.
I have so many adults walk up to me now and they'll be so excited and like, Uncle Fish, it's so cool to see you. I haven't seen you so long. And I'm like, yeah, it's great to see you, man. How's the family? And I'm trying to like figure out, is it foster care? Is it Cub Scouts? Is it like youth group at church? Is it classes that I did at schools? Is it,
Awesome.
summer camps? Like, I'm excited to see you if you're excited to see me, whether I remember where I know you from or not. But I am ecstatic to see you.
Very
And
golden retriever of you.
yeah, I mean, and it's fun. And then sometimes we'll leave and my wife's like, who is that? I was like, I have no idea. But
Idea.
I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah,
Because they don't look like they looked when they were 6 anymore. I stopped a lady at a restaurant the other day because she had a very, her name was Tay, and that's a peculiar name. And being named Fish, I paid attention to peculiar names. And one of my last foster kids was named Tay Tay, and so like I felt awkward coming up to her and hunting her down when we were done eating in the back of the restaurant. But I called her out. I was like, all right, I don't mean to be a weird creeper, but like, how old are you? And she like grins at me really weird. And turns out she was too old to be that Tay, and her name was Metallica. And I never would have forgotten that if that was Tay Tay's first name. I would never have forgotten that.
So Tay Tay and a Metallica.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But turns out it was a different Tay, and she was about 6 years too old to be that Tay. And even then, she was so young she probably wouldn't even remember me. But it's just nice to know she's okay, because some of them you really worry about forever. Like there was one girl that I wanted to adopt, but we thought we were going to continue fostering forever, and she would get so attached to the kids that came through, like, this is my new brother and this is my new sister, and it would break her heart when they left. And we thought we were going to do this forever. And then this lady comes along. It seems like the perfect fit. She always wanted a daughter, and her boys are grown and they're doting on her, and she's having so much fun going over there to visit. And the hardest thing I ever did in my life was to let her go and let that lady adopt her. And we got to stay in touch for a few months. And then I started to notice the lady was kind of crazy. And then she started cutting off communication with all of the girl's friends. And like when one of her friends came over and was jumping on the couch, instead of saying like, we don't do that here, like, maybe y'all can jump on the couch at your house, but we don't jump on the couch here. She cut off all communication. You're not friends with her anymore. We can't talk to her mom anymore, who was like the girl's second mom at this point, and just cut off communication. And when somebody sat in her pew at church that she had been going to for 12 years, they left the church and just left. Like, she led all kinds of committees. She just left and disappeared. And at this point, I'm like, oh crap. And then I tried to offer her the middle ground idea when she came to me complaining about something. She didn't like that, cut off communication with us. I found out a few years later when the little girl hit puberty and probably had a teenager, attitude and talked back one time. She took her and dumped her on the street.
Wow.
And the girl had to hitchhike her way back to her original hometown with her original abusive grandparents she got pulled from, and grew up there for the rest of her life. And I spent years wondering if she was even alive. And it killed me until finally I stumbled across her on Facebook one day and found out that she was alive and she was okay. And I wish she was up to meeting and visiting, but it's too much for her. But at least I know she's alive now, and that's gonna have to be enough.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's rough. That's there are a lot of
It's not for the faint-hearted.
There's definitely a lot of crappy people out there that want kids as a status, and it's like, dude, they're not a purse. You
Mhm.
know, like this is it's you know and, you know
Or to try and fill that hole inside of you that's never been filled. And then when
oh
they
yeah.
don't, it's their fault and you get mad at them and punish them for it. Like it's not their fault you're broken. It's not their fault you don't want to try and fix yourself. Like
Yeah.
that's a you problem, not a them problem. But
Like I know kids are different than pets, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing like with pets. Like people get them because they're just like, oh, these dogs are
won't it be
really in.
fun to have a monkey? No, it's not.
Yeah,
They're a handful.
because like I used to have a pet rabbit, and I love that rabbit, and like it's heartbreaking because so many people buy them at Easter and then they don't know what to do with them because they realize that they're not like cats,
Mhm.
and so they let them go. And I can't imagine just the callousness, that goes. People are just so quick to do those things. It's just like, oh my god. But it's the same with kids, um they think it's a status symbol, or it's like, oh, so and so is having a baby. I saw it on the news. Ooh, it's cool to have babies. Let's have a baby. Or if we need to fix our relationship, let's have a baby. That kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
they just
That
don't
will fix
understand.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
screaming
absolutely.
all night and dirty diapers and lack of sleep and no money and no free time. That will absolutely fix a broken marriage every time. Everybody should do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've seen it I've seen it be a success story all the time. How many kids come from successful
How many
broken
kids
marriage
do we
couples?
know adults that came from happy homes with really angry people that hate each other that only stuck together for the kids?
Yeah, and
It's a fairy tale. It's what it is. Yeah.
yeah, and that sucks. But yeah, no, I'm very happy to hear that you've done that and successfully. It appears, so that's
Oh
good. You're
yeah.
gonna have some really good
I
some
love my
people that are
boys.
gonna.
And for anybody out there that worries that you wouldn't love an adopted kid quite the same way or this, that, or the other, like unless you're, you know, unless you're a psychopath or
Yep.
you know,
I don't.
something really extreme, like there is no way you're not gonna I have forgotten so many times that my little brown almond-eyed kids are not my biological kids because like Marcus has my temper, Jay has my sense of humor and my curiosity. Like they are absolutely 100% my kids. And like we would be watching one of those Wendy's commercials about adoption, and I would just be thinking out loud, like, I always meant to adopt, but like, you wonder in the back of your head, are you going to love them like you don't love your own kids, or is it going to feel a little different, or like, are
Yeah.
you going to worry about it? Their birth parents come back into the picture or whatever, and then Jay would be like, I'm adopted, right? And I was like, oh crap, I totally forgot. You're right, you are. Yeah, I guess you don't. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, you don't think that way, but
Yeah, man, and sadly, I know some people like that have to have their own child, and it's just like, man, who hurt you? Like
what kind of
that.
psychotic ego trip is that?
Yeah,
Really?
like like that you can only. I mean, you're literally saying that you can only love your own blood, and that's weird to me. Like,
Marcus
I,
and Jay are exactly like me, just shorter, more muscular, and more handsome. So,
yeah,
like, well, that sucks. Like, they can drive any car they want to. I have to try on freaking cars like my wife tries on shoes to find something that will fit my giant ass. Like, they could drive a sports car if they want to. I could never drive a sports car in a million years. Like, I'm happy for them.
yeah. I'm close with my biological family, but I was 10 years behind my siblings, so for me it felt like I grew up in a single as a single child, and I just
Mhm.
had some really cool aunts and uncles. So when I came to college and stuff, like I did actually meet a really good set of friends that eventually became my family. And so it's people are always real quick to pull out the blood is thicker than water, but they never finish it, right? They always say, oh, blood is thicker than water. Yeah, but say the full thing. It's blood is thicker than water of the womb. And that basically means that the blood that you share with someone, like through the experience of life, will be much more bonding than being a birthright with someone. Like just because and I love my brothers
Just
and
because you got
sisters.
the same mother doesn't mean that you're going to be, ride or die best friends for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
Like
and it's
me and my brother have very little in common. And, I wish we were closer, but like you said, we were like 8 years apart. So, we don't really have anything in common. We grew up at
yeah,
different times.
yeah, and
That's why he
that's
won't
like a
let me
big thing.
leave because
The what?
I
Yeah,
said, and
Joe.
that's why he won't let me leave.
Yeah,
And like I told you earlier, I met him in my bed. It's hard to break that connection.
it's it's
Once a man's been in your bed, it causes a bond. It's hard to break. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's like I know the reason you're still here, Joe, is to make sure I don't say anything stupid. That's the only reason Joe's still awake.
Speaking
All
of
right.
which, it's almost midnight. So I need to go because I'm sure my wife went to bed a long time ago.
I finished my shading, so now I just have to hit the magical color button here, F9. Boom. Cool.
Good
I finished
deal.
Page.
I should have kept coloring. I should have gone on and kept doing that.
You
I
would
did
have
not
both finished.
realize when I tried to end it earlier that we were going to go for another hour. But it's been a great conversation.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
before we go too far, I'm going to ask you guys, do you have links that they can follow you at and stuff? Where can
Oh
they find
man,
you on
we're
social
assuming
media?
people have made it this far. That is off.
And we got
Awesome.
9 viewers still hanging with us.
Oh,
for-
are they real
Yeah, for
quiet?
over 3 hours.
Where
So-
are they? No, that's the I clicked on a thing, I started browsing and forgot this tab that's in the background.
It counts, damn it.
It's just that's
We've
in the
had
back-
we've had a lot more viewers and a lot more engagement than than some nights. So that's been a good deal. And y'all brought some awesome people with you too, which is cool.
Yeah, we should get those people to say hi. I want to know who those 9 people are.
They
The
can
real
just go to
freaks.
teenstrike.com and it'll take them straight to the Kickstarter. So
Yep, teenstrike.com. It's going to be a complete story. It's 7 issues. I'm not going to stop making it. We're going to be doing about one, from the looks of it, one every 3 to 4 months. So
Awesome.
you'll be getting the story going through. This is the first story arc, Teen Strike versus the Slayer. I already have the second story arc written, which is eight comics long, which is Teen Strike versus Cybercom, and I need to start the third and final story arc, which is probably going to be like 6 or 7 issues as well to tell the complete story. It's all coming. It's just give me a couple years and you'll have it all.
That's awesome, man. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a cool book, and I can't wait to hold it in my hands. It's really neat. Y'all did a great job on this. I really dig the vibe of it. It is really fun, and it's just cool. It's cool. Like, so much stuff that we read now is so heavy and so dark and so it can't be shared with the kids. And I like stuff I can enjoy with my family, not stuff that's like, oh no, this is just for me. Like, I dig stuff that I can enjoy with everybody, that I can enjoy and they can enjoy. And this definitely looks like it hits all the right chords on that.
I'm trying to tell something that's positive as well. In the introduction to my book, this is kind of like when you're writing yourself, usually out of frustration of life that's going on around you, you tend to write yourself in an ideal manner. And so this is basically what happened here. It was like, oh, you know what, I could have handled that better, or oh, those bullies really made me angry, so I'm going to draw a story about how I should have handled being bullied and things like that. And so there's a lot of positivity here. I don't dwell a lot on the drama too much. There is drama for the sake of not for the sake of drama, but there's drama because there's drama between friends, and it's just a whole bunch of personalities coming together. But a large part of the book is them working through the drama and addressing the issues and learning how to be friends, and remembering why they are doing what they're doing. It's like we got to fight for each other. We got to fight for these people and all that stuff. So there's a lot about that. There's a lot about giving back to your community, things like that. So while it's not an all ages book, I would say it's at least a teen book, because they do drink some alcohol in the book. But it's important to get these messages out for, like I said, for people that want to have this mood, right? Because there's a lot of dark, grim, depressing things out there. And don't get me wrong, the second story arc gets pretty dark, but it's but that's the natural hero's arc journey.
And life gets dark sometimes.
Yeah, and it's dealing with death and things like that. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really hoping that the people here, at least the ones still sticking around, and maybe the people listening to this tomorrow or whatever, whenever this gets released, they go sign up, teenstrike.com. We're looking at, basically, you're the missing piece to this puzzle. So as soon as this is done, it gets put up on the Kickstarter, and Joe wants to do it on Cinco de Mayo for some reason. I'm not sure why. I guess stereotypes exist for a reason, Joe. But we're gonna, he's looking at Cinco de Mayo for that, to actually launch the Kickstarter, and so it's possible. I think we can hit that. It just really depends on how I feel, but it's soon. It's going to be either sometime in May or early June is what I'm thinking. And it's, the train's coming and can't stop it. So
awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. Joe, where can they find you on social media?
Oh, you can just go to childsplaycomics.com, and at the very bottom is all the links to all our different social media. So
good deal. That's a good place to find you. And I am Mr. Fish Comics everywhere. I just got my MrFishComics.com up and running, so you can go buy books there, or on the TikTok shop, or subscribe on Patreon for $10 a month.
Oh yeah, I want some cost stickers. Do you have cost stickers?
Absolutely. I got all kinds of different ones. I need to make some more sticker sheets, because those are really cool. I sent them out with my Patreon backers for issue 2, and they were.
I'm not a print guy, but I really want that cover that you did for your Kickstarter, where everyone's kind of like racing from left to right, and it's like the tribute to the Hanna-Barbera like era. I really want that, but I'm not a print guy. But that is definitely like, I think Joe was showing me, he was throwing some of the color ideas that you had. He was throwing them my way to kind of get my input. There was one that you did with like, and granted, I don't remember what the final piece looks like, but there was one that you did. I don't know if it was by accident or not, but all the colors were like inverted or something. It were like all hyper colors, like neon kind of colors. Dude, if you did that and printed that on a foil card, that would look so badass. Like, that would be awesome. I would love that.
I remember doing that now too. I remember doing that. That was,
yeah.
I don't remember why I did it, but I remember that I did it.
Yeah, it's probably in our chat, Joe. But man, I don't know what you did, but that looked awesome, and I was like, hell yeah, I love that. Like I said, put that on some reflective foil or a glitter sticker or glitter print. Oh man, I would eat that up. I love that stuff.
Oh man, I've gotten some of that holographic lamination for making stickers, and now I'm like, ooh, I need to redo like all of these stickers and do them as holographic, and now I can make them like way bigger and stuff, because I can do smaller runs myself and not have to order 250 from somebody to make it cost effective. And now, like, oh, I could do a giant call with his sword. I could make it all sparkly and cool. Yeah, it's easy to get lost down the rabbit hole.
I wonder how much that would cost to do those holographic stickers like the X-Men did back in the 90s, where it would be like Wolverine with his claws, and then it would kind of like lenticular-ish.
That's a whole, like, you got to do a whole sculpture and lasers and the whole 9 yards. Man.
That sounds fun. Like,
it does.
You get lasers in that? Hell yeah. No, like, man, oh god.
Okay, we're going to wrap up before we spend the next 3 hours talking about all the swag we're going to do in the next campaign. Anyway, thank you for everybody that hung out this long, and for everybody watching this later. Go check out the campaigns. Call 1 through 4 is going to be going live May 1st, and they're shooting for May 5th. So there's lots of cool stuff to go check out. We will see you guys there. Thank y'all for hanging out, and thank you guys for hanging out. See y'all later.
All right, bye, y'all.
Hello, everybody.